everybody? Welcome into another episode of Purple Insider presented by FanDuel. Matthew Coller here, and just got back home from another Minnesota Vikings practice. Tomorrow will be an off day, and then the pads come on Monday. We wrapped up the padless practice period for the Minnesota Vikings with, if you're wondering right off the bat, a lot more first-team passes for Kyler Murray, but both quarterbacks did take about an even number of total snaps. So if you're saying, oh, there was never a competition, that Kyler is just clearly getting the advantage, well, that, is true for the first-team reps, and that continued into today with, I believe it was 17 or 18 passes. I'll have the exact data in a second. For Kyler with the first team, only about 8 for JJ McCarthy with the first team. And Andrew Krammer and I were adding it up after practice, and we came up with 35 with the first team over these first 3 days for Kyler Murray and 20 for JJ McCarthy. And that's just with the first offensive line, the first group of wide receivers. The actual snap count is much closer to that, but the snap count with the starters has leaned pretty heavily in the way of Kyler Murray, and that did not change. So it was that way in day 2, and we kind of said, look, if JJ McCarthy gets most of the first team reps in day 3, then we'll say totally even going into the padded practices. We cannot say that it is totally even going into the padded practices, and the performances of the two quarterbacks could not have been much different for today. So I know you guys want the graphics. Let's get into the graphics. There's a little B-roll for you from warm-ups, but we'll get to that later when we're answering some questions. But let's start with Kyler. Well, let's start with the summary first. Here's the summary. Then we'll go through all of the passes. So the summary today, I tracked 17 passes by Kyler Murray with just 3 incompletions, 5 positive throws with 0 negative throws, and 12 routine passes. So this was a flat out terrific day from Kyler Murray. And by the way, the 3 incompletions, none of them were negative because one was a drop by Miles Price on a great throw. There was actually a positive throw. There was another one that was a blatant pass interference where Justin Jefferson was grabbed by Charles Demings in the back of the end zone. And then there was, what was the third one? There was another drop, I believe, was the third negative, or the third incompletion. So yes, it was TJ Hawkinson in a red zone drill. He just threw a short pass. It was a routine throw. Hawkinson kind of reached out for it. As he went to the ground, he dropped the ball. And those were the only times the football hit the ground. Every other pass today was a completion by Kyler Murray. And again, we'll go through all those in just a second. On JJ McCarthy's side, I had him at 8 for 16. A lot of this was with the second team, but he did throw a handful of passes with the first team. He had just 2 positive throws, and I had him at 6 negative throws. And I know what some folks are going to say, oh, well, you're biased tracking. With each one of these, there's a bunch of us that are watching from the same spot. I was cross-checking when I either gave a positive or a negative with at least 2 other people in the media tent of that. Would you say negative on that? I would go negative. Is that a routine? Because there are ones where it can be a little hard to tell. Was it, a decent ball, but the wide receiver didn't make a play on it? And if I don't know, I will go routine. I will just mark that under, all right, well, if it's close enough, then it was a fair enough ball. This was a very rough practice for JJ McCarthy, and the two quarterbacks just couldn't have been farther apart. It was Kyler Murray looking like Kirk Cousins, looking like Sam Darnold, looking like Sam Bradford, an experienced quarterback with no pressure and no rush, just hitting pass after pass after pass, and I'll go through the highlights. And it was JJ McCarthy struggling greatly with accuracy, struggling with timing, struggling with getting rid of the football on some of the progressions. And this was the type of day that last year when JJ McCarthy had, we went, yeah, that was a tough one. Back at it tomorrow for the young developing quarterback. But when it happens in an unpadded practice like today, in year 3, that's when you're saying, going into the padded portion, I'm not sure how you can see that practice and think that the two quarterbacks are really all that close to each other. So that's the beginning of the takeaway. We'll have much more. Also, Andrew Krammer is going to join the show and give a breakdown a little later as well. So let's get into the grids here. Kyler Murray today had two passes that were deep over the middle. Both were positive passes. The one incompletion went off the hands of Miles Price. I want to talk about that one more in the highlights, but it was a great throw. It was up over the linebackers. Price had both hands on it and then just fumbled it, and it didn't turn into a catch, but that was a positive throw. So he goes 2 for 2 on deep balls. On the intermediate, he was 3 for 4 with one routine, two positives. No, I'm sorry, 2 routines and 2 positives, going 3 for 4. But the one incompletion, because I mentioned that it was a pass interference, was the one incompletion there to Justin Jefferson, where it's a great throw to the back of the end zone. Jefferson goes up to catch it, and Charles Demings just pulls one of his arms back, and he got a hand on it, but couldn't bring it in. It was very clearly pass interference, very clearly a very good throw, but it turns out to go incomplete. So a incompletion could still be a positive pass. So he ends up 3 for 4 with 2 positives and 2 routines there. And then on the short stuff, 6, 8, 9, 6. Okay. So 10 for 11 was what Kyler Murray went. 10 for 11 on the short stuff with all routine. I mean, it was all anything that was under 10 yards. There wasn't anything particular. Oh no, there was one positive throw. That would have been in the red zone drill. In the red zone drill, if it goes to the back of the end zone, I was counting that as 10 to 19. If it went to the front, then I was counting, because they were doing it from about the 10-yard line. So that's how I decided to track that one. That gets into a little sticky area of the grid, but that was how I approached it. And there was one very nice pass into a tight window into the end zone that hit TJ Hawkinson for a touchdown. All in all, a terrific day for Kyler Murray. So let's look at the best and I'm sorry, but under the low lights for Kyler Murray, I got nothing. There was not a single pass today from Kyler Murray. And if you want proof, some people filmed the practice. You can go see it on social media. There was not a single pass from Kyler Murray that I would say was a negative today. Now, he's a pro quarterback who's been in the league since 2019, who's had a lot of practices in his life and in his career, and these were clean pocket, and there's context to everything. But 5 of these throws today ended up in the hands of Justin Jefferson, and they were on point, on timing. The short ones where he ran a quick out, right on the money. The tougher ones, he hit Jefferson, and even the incompletion toward Jefferson was a clear pass interference. So they were really connected today quite well, and Murray was extremely accurate. And I kind of had a little bit of a feeling we were watching him warm up, and he just looked on point today. And he even high-fived Justin Jefferson after a really nice throw over the middle. So you don't even have to worry about the lack of high fives, everybody. Might have been a low 5. Is that different? So let me talk about a couple of the passes. One of them really stood out early in practice where we kind of knew Kyler's on point. And that was a deep crossing route to Justin Jefferson. So I want you to kind of imagine where you have Jefferson on Kyler Murray's left side, and he's going to go up 15 to 20 yards and break across the middle, where Jordan Addison is just running straight down the sideline. So Addison is clearing out, and Justin Jefferson is breaking over the middle. Murray drops back to throw and releases the ball. And when he releases the ball, it's not entirely clear where he's going with it, because we haven't seen the wide receiver arrive yet. And then all of a sudden, Justin Jefferson breaks behind the linebacker, bang, right on the money. Couldn't have walked it up and handed it to him much better. And that was one of those base concepts for Kevin O'Connell. This is what he does. This is what he wants out of Justin Jefferson. It's also the throw that people have talked about being concerned about Kyler Murray, the throwing over the middle, which we've gone over the data a little bit. And I saw Nate Tice. I want to shake hands with Nate Tice today on social media, because he was tweeting about the throwing over the middle thing and Kyler's accuracy. It's like, yeah, the data is there if you want to find it, but not everybody does. So this was a really nice pass from Kyler Murray. Now, I could have included probably, well, I had 6 positive throws, so I'm just going to highlight these 3. The red zone drill where he found Hawkinson was just very nice. It was 7-on-7. It was take the snap, check, and there it is. Like, look for his first read, and there Hawkinson arrives right in front of his face, bang, right into the middle of defenders, touchdown for Kyler Murray. Again, highlighting this because it was in the middle of the field and that he had to go through a little bit of a progression in order to find TJ Hockenson. And this is something we've discussed a lot, is where does TJ Hockenson fit into this offense? Like, if you're going to succeed with KOC, you can find Addison as the wide receiver 2. You're going to get the ball to your running backs. You're going to get the ball to your wide receiver 3. But if it's going to work, it's going to be Jefferson down the field and Hockenson underneath. And he did both of those things today. And then there was another one when Kyler did take some snaps with the 2, where twos, he found Ty Felton into a very tight window. Felton made a nice catch reaching up to get it. But the placement, Kyler Murray and his ability to place the football, there were a few of us walking away saying, yeah, that's right. The number 1 overall draft pick looked like the number 1 overall draft pick today. This is what people saw. This is how he wins the Heisman. This is how he's the best high school quarterback in Texas. This throwing of the football today with no pads, and there's context to everything, not the whole offense being installed. This is just the part of it's the base type of stuff. They're not doing game planning. No one's hitting him yet. All those caveats. This was great throwing of the ball. This was as accurate as we've seen a quarterback in a training camp practice throw the ball since I've been covering the team. Now, Bradford, I know, is always bring that up, 2016. Velocity that Bradford had, the velocity that Darnold had. You don't see that from Kyler, not that level, but the accuracy and the execution and the timing, all bang on today for Kyler Murray. Couldn't have asked for much more. This was probably the type of day where if you are a big believer in Kyler Murray and you think that the offense can be outstanding with him, and you think it was mostly Arizona's fault, like if you're that person and you've been banging the drum forever, this was your day. Now, is this going to be every day? Probably not. And we're going to follow it. That's why we do a show every single day. But the fact of the matter today was it was Kyler Murray all over the field. And anybody who is watching now who was at practice, I think in the comment section can probably confirm as well for what we saw from Kyler Murray, but especially with Justin Jefferson. I think they connected on 5 passes and then there was 1 pass interference. There was still a good throw. And when you see Jefferson run that out route and the ball just hits him exactly as he's coming out of his break, it's like, that's the one, or exactly over the middle, that's the one. These are the same concepts that very good anticipation thrower Kirk Cousins was able to have so much success with Justin Jefferson. So as Jefferson goes into his off day, I mean, he's got to feel pretty good about where things are at with Kyler Murray. And if you remember, on Thursday, he finished the practice with one of those corner routes where he goes up, there's 2 Kylers left. As he's coming out of his break, it's like a post, but going out. That's a corner route. And he released it way before he went into the break, turned around, got the ball. I mean, there's just been a lot of really good throwing to the end of the practice the other day, and then especially today. Now, on the other side is JJ McCarthy. Let's take a look at what he did today on the grid. Only threw the 1 pass over 20 yards, and it was fine. It did not go completed. It was a ball that he threw up over kind of a fade ball to TJ Hockenson, and it was a little bit windy out there today. I don't know if the ball hung up a bit. Hockenson tried to turn around. I think it hit him, and he wasn't able to bring it in. I wouldn't say it was a bad throw at all. He probably could have gotten rid of it ever so slightly earlier and hit Hockenson on the run, as opposed to him kind of having to turn around and go get it. But it was in the ballpark, so I thought there was a lot of debate about that throw. I thought it was okay. In the intermediate, it was a enormous struggle today for JJ McCarthy. He went 3 completions and 5 incompletions. So just 3 for 8. He had 4 negative plays in the intermediate, and we'll talk about some of the details on those, but the intermediate stuff was just not working. And the short stuff had also 2 negative plays. One of them was right at the beginning of practice where he did get some work with the ones, and he was a little late to find somewhere to throw the ball, and then just sort of threw it to Jordan Mason, which should have been an easy completion for a check down, and it missed him entirely. Then he had another one in the red zone that was just nowhere really close to his target. So he only went 3, 5, 4, 7. Well, 5 for 7 on the underneath stuff, but the intermediate and deep stuff did not hit today for JJ McCarthy. So let's take a look at there was some good, and then we'll talk about some of the negative plays. In terms of the highlights, one of his best throws of the day was a line drive throw to Jeshaun Jones, where Jones ran straight up the seam, kind of out of the slot. And when he turns around, it's like a hitch, bang, ball hits him right in the chest. Perfect throw, perfect timing by JJ McCarthy for a big gain on a throw to Jeshaun Jones. And then there was a touchdown pass where he found Dillon Bell. And we have not had a ton of Dillon Bell so far, but it was a very nice go through progression. See Dillon Bell, get it to him in the back of the end zone. So you can kind of picture we're over top of the end zone. And so it's aiming toward us. So we see Dillon Bell come down and then go across the back end line. And then there he is. JJ was able to find him. So it wasn't that there were no highlights at all from JJ McCarthy. There were, but it was just a lot of negative plays. And in terms of the two that really stood out to me, one of them was early in the practice where he did get reps with the ones and he drops back to throw. Jawan Jennings is coming on kind of a cross route, and it's not a deep cross. It's more of an underneath cross route. There is no one around him. He is completely wide open. If he catches the ball in real life, he is probably rumbling into the safety for 15 or 20 yards after catch. They just didn't really cover him. And the ball goes sailing way up over his head. And then later in the practice, I think the hardest one. So this is where I did see someone post a video of it. And when I saw the video of it, I was like, okay, that kind of confirms what I thought, because I usually do try to, play safe when it comes to, just trying to decide, like, is it a good throw? Is it a bad throw? And I had written down like unsure on this particular throw. But then when I was able to see it at that different angle, it's like, yeah, okay, that's what happened. So there's an out route to Ty Felton. And this is one of the timing things where it's got to be hit the back foot and the ball has to be gone with anticipation to a spot. And it was just late. Whether it was how he threw the football or how quick the decision was made or just whatever the timing was, it was very late. And Felton was already out of his break by the time the ball came out of JJ's hands, which allowed Zamiah Vaughn to go make a play on it and get a pass breakup. So it was, those were just a few of them. There were throws that were inaccurate. There were times in the red zone where he couldn't get rid of the ball. There's one to Ty Felton in the back of the end zone where he's slow to find something and then just sort of whips it toward Felton. It goes flying out of the back of the end zone. This was a very, very difficult day for JJ McCarthy. Now, let me play some of the scenes here, and we'll talk about the conclusions and what that means, and then we'll get to some other things and two comments from KOC that I thought were kind of interesting. So here is my conclusions based on what we saw today from Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. That if things continue to look like this, by the end of next week, you could probably announce it if you are Kevin O'Connell, right? If we were doing this like political polls and it was, well, what do the polls say after 3 days? The polls would be leaning extremely heavily toward Kyler Murray based on the facts of the matter, which are the first team reps, where Murray has just simply taken a lot more out of 55 first team reps with Jefferson, with Brandel, with Darisaw, with all those guys. 35 have gone to Kyler Murray, which math people can give me the exact percentage on. But that's a very big percentage of the reps have gone toward his way with the first team. And then the overall performance through 3 days is, after totaling it up, you could have said the first day was pretty even. The second day was erratic for Kyler Murray, but very conservative for JJ McCarthy. Maybe you could even land in a similar spot for the two, although the deep plays are weighed more heavily for Kevin O'Connell. So I would have given a small edge to Kyler Murray, but thought that neither quarterback really was particularly great. But after today, it's been overall not really particularly close. If the first day had an even number fairly of positive throws, over the last 2 days, Kyler Murray has had much more. I've had 11 positive throws for Kyler Murray to just 2 for JJ McCarthy, or maybe 3. Was it 3? Maybe 3. 2 or 3 for JJ McCarthy over the last 2 days. And this is to be expected. Not only because Kyler Murray has a lot more experience, he has had many of these training camps before, but because accuracy is something that has never been questioned for Kyler Murray. Last time he started an entire season was one of the 5 to 7 most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL in 2024. So again, not shocking. When he played with DeAndre Hopkins, he ran 1,000 out routes with one of the best wide receivers on earth. Experience is really showing here as we have more practices from Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. Now, does that mean it's over? Does that mean the competition was a fraud? I would not say that it's over. I would just say that the starting point of padded practices is Kyler Murray at the 20-yard line and potentially walking into the end zone, and JJ McCarthy starting at the 0 and having to run him down from a very, very far place behind. Murray has looked very comfortable with the offense. He definitely did today, but he didn't really even look uncomfortable in the first 2 days. It was a miscommunication here, a fumbled snap there. But aside from that, with his wide receivers, he's just looked very comfortable throwing the football to them. Some days it's been Addison, some days it's been Jefferson, and today getting Hockenson involved as well. He has just looked like, over 3 days, what you would expect from a veteran quarterback who has been a starter for their entire career. Not somebody who's bounced around and been a backup and maybe started sometimes, but truly someone who is a starting quarterback for a long time. And if you want to start going down a certain road, you could get pretty excited about the idea of this KOC offense maybe being a better fit than some people said. I would hesitate to go too far because it's one section of practice. And the way this works is you have the unpadded practices that are not weighed that heavily in terms of what we think of training camp over the long period. The first section of padded practices, which almost always belongs to the defense. And then when the offense starts to catch up, people start to get it. After that, the night practice, that's like section 3. Then we have the lead up to the preseason and the first preseason game, that's section 4. And then section 5 is the joint practices, and then it's all over. So this is only section 1. But section 1 has strongly pointed toward Kyler Murray, not only as the quarterback, but somebody who could get 1,500 yards for Justin Jefferson. And yeah, I did check on FanDuel. He's still at plus 1,800 to win Offensive Player of the Year, but maybe some cash flow headed FanDuel's way today after if you were at the practice. But the fact that he's on point with Jefferson is the biggest, I think, takeaway of these first 3 days. That if Jefferson had 2 catches and 8 targets from Murray, we'd be going, is this a repeat of what happened? No, that has not been the case. They have really been on point with their timing. And with JJ McCarthy going into this, here's what I thought. I felt that this was a great opportunity for JJ McCarthy to develop by getting a lot of reps that wouldn't normally be given to him under these circumstances. Most teams who go out and get a veteran quarterback after a first rounder has played like this, I don't know if they're giving 20 first team reps out of 55 to that quarterback, or if they're giving an even split in terms of actual snaps, which is what has happened over these first couple of days, right? I don't know if that would be happening for everybody who performed like McCarthy did and everybody who had a resume like Murray did. So I think that O'Connell has given him a lot of opportunity to improve and to see things and to work on his technique and everything else. And as practices go along, if McCarthy starts to click in because he knows the offense and because, once the pads come on, he takes his game up another level and Murray struggles, that this still could be potentially interesting. At this moment, it doesn't feel like that is where this is headed, though. It feels like where this is headed is that Kyler Murray will be the quarterback fairly soon, within the next week or two, and then we'll go forward from there in kind of the plan that we all thought when Kyler Murray was started. That's how today feels, But, Monday can always change everything. Injuries can always change everything. And the light can go on for JJ McCarthy. But I think that if we were looking for, hey, a couple months has gone by, it's completely different. I just am not sure that's how it works when it comes to technique and accuracy. I'm not sure that you just sort of go to California and work on it for a little while. I mean, it sort of reminds me of a golf swing where it would take a lot more than a few months to get a new technique down of swinging a golf club. And anybody who's ever played golf knows how frustrating that could be when you learn something, it's right, and you're trying and trying, but it's not locked in yet, where Kyler has been an accurate quarterback since he was 8 years old. So I think that we saw what we expected to see after today. And all I could say is that things can change. But the fact that McCarthy has got these reps, and if he gets them with the pads still on going into next week and then forward from there, if he continues to get those reps, then make the most of them because it's not trending in his direction, but he still has an opportunity to make the most of all those opportunities. So that's kind of where we stand, sort of bottom line on the quarterback competition. And we'll get Andrew Krammer's opinion on that we'll say at the top of the hour. And I asked Andrew, spoiler here, about, FanDuel question of the day. If this is how Kyler Murray's going to look with Justin Jefferson, Jefferson's plus 1,800 for Offensive Player of the Year. But what's the ceiling? If how I described to you the way that Kyler Murray looked today with Justin Jefferson, if that transfers over to the regular season, what is the ceiling on the Vikings offense? And Jefferson is plus 1,800 on FanDuel for Offensive Player of the Year. That's FanDuel question of the day. There are a couple other things I wanted to get to. I did ask Kevin O'Connell about Kyler Murray throwing the ball downfield, which he continued to do. So I asked him, this was before practice, but about whether that was their plan or whether it was just kind of how things played out. Kyler the other day was thrown down the field quite a bit. Was that something that you had emphasized to him over the first couple of days, or was that just kind of how the plays played?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's how the plays kind of come and what defense is scripted. And, we're really just in the early stages. Even though it's, we're trying to, move full speed ahead with our volume, I think it's still early enough that it's kind of hard to pinpoint any tendencies by the day. But at the same time, seeing him do that and hitting some of those down the field kind of throws, even into some, different variations of some of Flo's exotic looks, was encouraging. And JJ had some as well. Carson hit a long one to Miles Price as well. So we're just trying to implement our offense. We're trying to really focus on some foundational things that, the quarterbacks play a big role in, but it's an all-11 thing right now for sure, regardless of what personnel grouping we're in.
So it sounds there from Kevin O'Connell more like, well, my offense pushes it downfield, and if he sees a look that he's going to go for, then he's going to let it loose. I would not say the overall numbers hinted at, wow, Kyler's just out there throwing bombs. He's just, down. That's not really how it's been. A lot of the stuff is still, 0 to 9, a lot of those throws, but he's had success in hitting enough of those deep shots over the first 2 days. Also in the other notes, and I forgot to make a graphic, but I have other notes. They're on my notes app. But I did want to mention O'Connell's comments on Caleb Banks, who we saw a good amount of today, and I expect it to continue to ramp up. But here's what he had to say about Caleb Banks's health and how they plan to approach as the pads come on.
Is Caleb Banks full go? And just, if so, how happy have you been to see him out there and doing
what he's doing? He's definitely full go. We have a mindset of what that looks like because it's really been, a good chunk since he's played football. So we're building up those reps. He'll get a little bit more today, but we're being real purposeful, with the fact that he's in there with a lot of the first group. He's in there, hearing the full complement of the calls that Flo has up that day. And one of the things that I was really, really impressed by in the spring is just his ability to retain information, even without physically getting to apply them, how he handled walkthroughs, how he handled the meeting room. And it's been really cool seeing him and Big Citrus and the connection those guys have. If you see one, you probably see the other, which is, exactly what you're looking for when you bring in two young guys like that. But yeah, his workload will continue to ramp up, and we'll be mindful, depending on, days in a row, or maybe the surface we're practicing on, specifically thinking about the night practice, how much work, and when we get it, we're going to just continue to try to build it up and make sure he's ready to get some time in the preseason.
Well, it seems like very good news there from Kevin O'Connell on Caleb Banks. And that last part really raised the antenna of, he's going to get some time in the preseason. We don't always know with Kevin O'Connell. I mean, I would have thought that he would. I remember Jordan Addison, though, making a great catch against the Seattle Seahawks in a preseason game. And they were like, okay, that's enough. Like, get out of there. I mean, I could see that happening with Caleb Banks. He throws a guy, gets a pressure, like, okay, that's enough. You're fine. But, he is in the ramp-up period, so I wouldn't mind seeing him play the first half of a preseason game here and maybe a handful of other snaps in the second preseason game, just to see where he's really at playing football. And then they'll probably learn a lot about that when they get to the joint practices. But as pads come on, that is something to watch. How often is he out there? What does he look like? Is he impressing? Like the fact that they talked about him and Dominique Orange forming this relationship with each other, and that he was able to pick up a lot of the defense during the spring without actually getting on the field, and they like where he's at. But that's going to be a huge storyline all preseason long, all offseason, training camp long, is just how does Caleb Banks look? How is he adjusting? How is he feeling? Because when you do see him out there even a little bit, and even when you watch him in warmups, and even when you look at him just stand in the line of scrimmage, you think, okay, this is why they drafted the guy. They probably met him and said, this is a good idea to draft him. But where he's at from a technical standpoint, and from, can he play 500 snaps to 600 snaps in the NFL this year with the conditioning element of missing so much time with his foot by the end of camp? How are we going to feel about that with Caleb Banks? But that's overall pretty darn good news. The other thing that stood out today, there's a couple. One was that Charles Demings got a ton of work with the first and second teams. I mean, he was out there for the entire practice because James Pierre did not practice, but Isaiah Rodgers did. So the other day I said, I never want to be definitive on these things if we haven't heard anyone say it, but Isaiah Rodgers missed those first two practices, but did warmups. And with his contract situation, we kind of wondered, is there something going on there? But I figure, okay, well, we'll see how this plays out. He was out there for the entire practice. So Isaiah Rodgers must have been, I don't know, just not really ready or something bothering him, but he was out there the entire time in today's practice. And they were missing James Pierre. So that meant a ton of work for Charles Demings. And while he did commit a very obvious pass interference against Justin Jefferson, he also, I thought, had a pretty impressive day. He is a very physical corner. So we've talked about how he's a great athlete. He's a great jumper. He's got this great attitude. And we spoke with him after practice, and he is an absolute delight. They probably got it on Vikings.com after the show. Go check it out. But he's an absolute delight to speak with. He's got just a great attitude. And he's really fun with some of the one-liners that he has and things like that. But he's aggressive out there. And what he said was that during the offseason, he spent every day, and this is like classic Charles Demings, but he was like, every day, even if I was just preparing, that's my Super Bowl for that day. Today's practice is my Super Bowl. And I think the fact that he's out there, as I've always said, you got to have the things they say match up with the things that are being done. And the fact that he was getting a lot of those reps, I mean, they could have given him to Dwight McGlothern, who's been in this defense. Samaya Vaughn got some, but Demings clearly got the most, which to me says that he is impressing the people who divvy up those reps. And when you see the athleticism, when you see how aggressive he is, and when you see his attitude and listen to him talk about football, and it all matches up, it's an interesting thing, this draft class. Max Bredesen, by the way, did a ton of work. Jake Golday has been getting a ton of work at inside linebacker. Actually, Golday had a play today where he tipped the ball in the air and then it was intercepted by Blake Cashman. But Golday was out there, and the fact that they were on the field at the same time is, notable. I didn't see a ton of first team reps for Golday. I'm gonna have to pay attention to that a little more because Adams has been getting them and Eric Wilson, but it looked like it was Jake Golday getting a hand on the football. So he's shown some instincts, some movement skills. I keep coming back every day kind of feeling like this draft class is doing some good things. There's caveats, you could put them on there, but that's the feeling on August 1st is the draft class is doing some good things, and Deming's got a lot of the work. Did not see Damon Claiborne out there, so there was a lot of Xavier Scott today. And that was kind of, the other updates are just, Dylan Bell made a nice play with Ty Felton. I continue to kind of be unsure where I'm at with him as a wide receiver, where every day he's made a good play. And every day there's been at least one where I've kind of been like, could he have made a play on a jump ball or something like that? Or, got a piece of one when it was 50-50 and whatever. But he is getting a ton of opportunity, Felton, and he is catching a lot of footballs. So regardless of whether he is going to carve out a role in this offense or not, he's getting a lot of development time during this preseason. So there you have it. A lot of details there, and I want to get a word from the sponsor, and then I dare to open up the comment section. I'm going to believe in you guys today. And what I'm going to do is I will scroll for good comments is what I will do in the comment section. And then Andrew Krammer joins the show from the Star Tribune. He and I had a chance to record a podcast after practice, basically right off the practice field. But I need to tell you, last night, I just had an awesome night of sleep. I was ready for this. I was ready for a big day of practice. And I'm really ready for a sleep after 4 straight days of practice. And I'm going to do it on my Aurora Luxe mattress from Brooklyn Bedding. It's been a life changer. It's been outstanding. And I am so thrilled that I bought a mattress that has really, really great durability, really great craftsmanship. It is made in America, but yet cost effective as well. Like, I didn't have to mortgage the house or start another podcast in order to afford my Aurora Luxe mattress from Brooklyn Bedding. We switched because we had just gotten so tired of those cheap mattresses that you buy and are, okay for a little while, and then you start sinking into them. But now I wake up feeling great. The spine is supported, and I've got all the energy I need to cover this here football team and read the comment section. What I like about it is that even if it wasn't great, which truly it is, there's a 120 night comfort trial. So if you aren't comfortable, then you can swap it out or return the mattress hassle-free. So go to brooklynbedding.com, use the promo code PURPLE at checkout for 30% off site-wide during their back-to-school sale. That is brooklynbedding.com with the promo code PURPLE. Also, when it comes to any company that I'm involved with, what you love is when somebody goes the extra mile for you. So, if it's Brooklyn Bedding or if it's just anybody who's worked on my house where a lot of things have gone wrong, you always feel like the person cares. And if you're a hiring manager, you want to feel like the people who are applying for your job really care about that job. So go to ZipRecruiter right now, ziprecruiter.com/audio. And what you're going to find there is their powerful matching technology that finds qualified candidates quickly and asks those candidates to tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. And that's why ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site based on, G2 based on G2. Okay. So that's the #1 hiring site. And try ZipRecruiter to meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of every 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate right away. So try that within, get it right within the first day. So try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That is ZipRecruiter.com/AUDIO. Okay, let's take the risk. Let's see what you folks are saying in the chat here. We'll start off with Chris, who says, what I'm hearing is remortgage the house on over 8.5 wins. Well, yeah, that is the FanDuel over-under at the moment going in. And I will say that it was a good day for Kyler Murray for sure. But as we know, making too much of one practice, like we did last year with joint practices, making too much of, stuff like this is not very wise based on who Kyler has been and what his skill set is and how this team is constructed and who it's coached by and who's catching the footballs and who owns the team and what their stadium's like and what their schedule's like. I mean, a lot of it adds up to over 8.5 wins. I mean, that's just every time I've picked the schedule, I've come up with 11, 10 or 11, I think is a bar for us to set that if they come short of that bar, then it would be pretty disappointing. And, a million things can happen between now and then. But this is a team that's good enough to win the division if they have quarterback play like they did today. James said, another example of why we should remember journalism 101. Why is this person lying to us? KOC and everyone involved has been lying about the competition. It never was and never will be. Very strong words, Mr. James, but I will say this, that KOC never said, I'm going to go into a room and I'm going to make sure every guy gets the exact number of reps with Justin Jefferson to the letter, 50-50. If it's 50.1 and 49.9, I'm not happy. That's not what he said. There was never a lie there. And he did say that they were going to start off the reps pretty evenly and then it could shift. He said that in his opening press conferences, and it's already shifted. And when it is a performance like today, I wouldn't be that shocked if there's more of a shift toward Kyler Murray. If they don't think that JJ McCarthy has a chance to catch up after Murray's start has been good and after he's looked on point with how he's running the offense and so forth. But, I don't know where it's going to go from here. If Murray does not perform well once the pads come on and once the pressure starts to come his way, then maybe there's a chance that it could go back the other direction. But I'll say this, that in terms of actual reps, if Kirk Cousins and Nick Mullins were here, I could tell you that it would be 80-20 for the reps that they were getting, if not even more than that. For the just actual plays. Kirk would take every play with the ones and every play with the twos. And then every once in a while, you get the backup quarterback. JJ McCarthy, the fact that he has thrown as many passes as he has, just period, tells you that he has been given an opportunity to be out there for sure. I mean, that it's been much more competitive than it would be. I mean, what do you think's happening in Los Angeles? Matthew Stafford, does the backup quarterback, do you think the backup quarterback gets 16 passes in a practice? Oh, no. Do you think I don't even know who Josh Allen's backup is. Do you think Josh Allen's backup is getting 16 practice passes? Absolutely not. Josh is getting every single one of those. And then, okay, the backup comes in and throws a couple and whatever, right? That's how it went when Kirk was here and he was the clear starting quarterback. So McCarthy has been given a lot of opportunity, but he has been given less opportunity with the ones based on who they are as quarterbacks and the fact that O'Connell must feel like he's far enough along in the offense to run it in practice. So I'm not going to say that there was lying here. Just seems like a little bit unfair. Unknown Army. I'm ready for Kyler to be the starter and give Jets the ball. Maybe next year JJ can be ready, but we have to see. That's really the thing for me, that when we talk about Kyler Murray, what he could be in this offense, and I know that people have a bigger thing that goes into, with Murray and the history of this team at quarterback and all those things. Like, I totally get it. But when it comes to just this year, the here and now, and sometimes I'm guilty of this. I love talking about timelines for quarterbacks. And for franchises and for team building and for contracts and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that is why you're here, because Purple Insider loves it. We just pulled up the other day Brian O'Neill's contract and broke down his cap hits for every year. That's my gag, right? This is my thing. But I would also maybe suggest letting them play some games this year, or as you go into the season, don't decide that they're already screwed for 2027 before we've seen it play out, because you have no idea what's going to happen. I can say this though, with Justin Jefferson, this is a guy who is the best receiver in terms of yardage at his point in his career ever, and has won Offensive Player of the Year, and is still widely considered a top 2 wide receiver, despite what happened last year with his production going down. If Kyler Murray could get him the ball like this, at very least, you're going to have a good offense. I don't know if you're going to have a great offense. I don't know how often you're going to turn it over. And KOC talked today passionately about the run game. Maybe the run game will be a lot better. They seem excited about it. The players seem excited about it. We'll see. They've got to prove it. But and don't you want to watch somebody throw the ball to Justin Jefferson? I mean, he is just as good as it gets. in football. It is an honor if you're a fan of a team that has a player like that. Like, not many people have players like that. And last year was just sad to watch it not work. And if Kyler's the best option, as it looked today, far and away, to get Justin Jefferson the football on these throws, then your offense has a floor that could be pretty high just by the fact that you could get the ball to the number one wide receiver, and the ceiling gets bumped up because this is, Kyler Murray has not had a wide receiver like this in many years, and their offense was pretty good. Mama says, sounds like McCarthy lost the starting job. I would not say that it's lost until it's announced, because Kevin O'Connell has said that he will announce it. I will also not say it's lost when he's still getting this many passes and this many snaps in practice. If those snaps start to really reduce and we see him take 2 first-team reps, we see him take 8 second-team reps in the next practice, the next section of practices, then yeah, it's probably pretty much over. I would suspect, it's just a guess because I don't know, KOC has not faxed me the plan for next week. I would guess that he would continue in this way over the next section of practices, because I believe they have like a block of 4 with padded practices. My suspicion is that will be 3 with 1 walkthrough day. So if you have 3 more practices and you treat them just like this, only they're more intense and they have pads on and so forth, then you can get a pretty good sample size of this is what it looked like with a clean pocket. This is what it looked like when the pressure was coming, and give everybody their decent amount of reps, but you're still probably leaning toward Kyler because the competition's leaning toward Kyler. Then, all right, that sounds good. That makes a lot of sense. And that would give enough reasonable time to show that you're in the range of Kyler Murray and that you should continue on with this. But if it doesn't, then you start to get into the night practice. Then you start to get him to prep for the preseason game. And I think he wants to have a quarterback by then, would be my suspicion. My prediction was that he would announce it before the first preseason game. It could be before the night practice if this goes faster. I don't think it's gone so fast, though, that we're saying, okay, they're going to come in on Monday and say Kyler's the quarterback. I don't think it's gone that fast, based on the way that we've seen things play out. And I don't think that one bad practice for JJ McCarthy was enough to say, all right, yeah, it's over, go with Kyler Murray, before they even put on, some shoulder pads. Joker, Kyler Murray has never been an offense this complex enough. KOC's offense is deliberately too complex. Good combination. Well, you're right that I don't think that he's ever been in an offense quite this complex, but I would also say too, Drew Petzing came from the same tree. Like, he came from, where you have KOC being with Washington, Jay Gruden, they ran a lot of similar type of stuff. And then you go out to this, he ends up working for Sean McVay, where that's rooted in that same sort of tree, right? And Petzing was working for Kevin Stefanski and Gary Kubiak. It's a lot of the same ideas, but packaged differently, and maybe there's more verbiage, but I really believe that Drew Petzing, who now is with Detroit, by the way, like, do you think that Detroit is going to run a basic offense under Drew Petzing? Do you think they would have hired someone who just ran a rinky-dink, cartoony, simple offense? I think that was true for Cliff Kingsbury. I do not think that it was true for Drew Petzing, or otherwise they wouldn't have had Jared Goff take him on as the offensive coordinator, right? So I think that the offense was much more complicated in Arizona, asked him to do a lot more than people think. And, just go watch one of the games from last year early in the season where you see a lot of him playing from the pocket. You see a lot of him adjusting at the line of scrimmage, probably having longer play calls and stuff like that. I think he really learned under Petzing that there's more to this quarterback thing than just the run and shoot. Or the air raid, So I do think that it is complex, but I also think today we just saw Kyler operating like it wasn't. And it's the base stuff. When it gets to the real games, then that's, I think, where the criticism comes in. But he looked in command today, and that's through the first couple of days. Alex, good to see you. It's great signs for the Vikings that Kyler has picked up the system enough to have a good day today. Right, yeah. I mean, this is how you would expect it to go. First day was pretty limited for everybody. And then the second day was a little up and down. Still had 5 positive throws, but Murray had more negative throws on Thursday, and then today, 0 negatives. I mean, that's exactly what Kevin O'Connell really, really wants. Bland toast. How have the running backs split up with the first team? Yeah, it's been almost all Jordan Mason, a handful of Aaron Jones each day. Somebody in the media tent said today that Aaron Jones looks like he's got some burst, and I don't disagree with that. I also think he's always had burst. It's just when you get into the season and it beats you down and so forth. But it's looking pretty spry for the handful of reps that he's gotten. A lot of Jordan Mason. Like, they are really putting expectations on Jordan Mason. And I don't know if that's going to mean in the season how the reps get divvied up. But, O'Connell came out and said today that, he's seen Jordan Mason put in a lot of work in the offseason. He's in better shape, which I think you can even see when you're out there. He looks like he's a little quicker. He's still a big guy, but he looks like he's a little quicker. I really think that they want a lot from Mason this year. And then today was all Xavier Scott. And there's one other running back that they signed that I need my roster sheet, that is like the back end of the roster guy, because Claiborne was not practicing. I don't know why they don't have to release like an explanation if somebody's not practicing, but Claiborne wasn't, so we saw a ton of Xavier Scott today. I still think that Xavier Scott is going to be RB3 to start the season, and Claiborne is going to be someone that can work his way onto the active roster through special teams and then start to mix in as the season goes along, unless he just shreds preseason and then they can't keep him off the field. But I'm always a little more hesitant when it comes to that. Vikings STW. I don't think you're going to get the biased shtick today. Everyone is saying what happened today. Clearly your eyeballs hate JJ. Yeah. No, I mean, look, what would have been more fun than if they had found their franchise quarterback forever. And, since JJ's gotten here, I've always gotten along with him quite well. And I've always said that I think that he has what it takes to be an NFL starting quarterback. I just can't because everything is data on the show. It is. Like, it's data even when it's words or even when it's observations that I make. It's always like inputting the data, figuring out what I think of it, and then giving it to you guys. And the data that I can't get over is just that he hasn't played a lot of football. And so I think a day like today for JJ McCarthy can still, at this point in the game, be looked at as, all right, this is another one of those learning type of days. Come back when pads come on. Put together a really good day and keep making progress and see what happens and be ready, right? Like all those things for JJ McCarthy. There is no person who is reasonable that thinks, oh yeah, just throw him over the edge of the boat. It's over, yada, yada, yada. It's just that Murray's a lot more experienced and is a natural thrower, and it showed, right? XX Super Bird says this team will not make the Super Bowl with Murray. He's just another version of Kirk who melts under pressure. His pressure numbers are fascinating. Would you like to see them? This is what's so great about having data all the time, is I actually have his pressure numbers. We can go look at them, and because they're very interesting from year to year. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? So, because I tend to agree that it's concerning about him under pressure from a career perspective. So I'm going to try to put a little bit of, maybe we can get the rankings on this. Let's do the rankings on this of where Kyler ranked under pressure by PFF in recent seasons, because I do think that it tells a story, and it's a little bit different because Kyler can also, you have to remember, Kyler can gain 50 yards while he's under pressure by running. Whereas Kirk Cousins was never able to scramble. Kirk was actually pretty good when he was blitzed and when he was under pressure at times, but he would just not be able to get away. So last year, and it's a smaller sample size for Kyler Murray, but last year he was the 8th highest graded quarterback under pressure, and that was in 67 dropbacks, and performed pretty well. In comparison to his peers. Now, the best quarterbacks were graded much higher, completed higher percentage of passes, but his numbers were not bad by any means under pressure last season, just overall, right? They were fine. They were, rated pretty well and by PFF, and, not horrible. So a 63 grade is I mean, pressure kills everybody, right? The best grade isn't even 80, as you can see from Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. So I would put it under fine. Like he's 8th, but there's also like a very small difference between 8th and like 18th. So, all right, small sample size. He was okay under pressure last year. The following season, or the previous season, I should say, in 2024, which he played really well overall, he was terrible under pressure. Absolutely terrible. 50 grade, ranked 30th. But you'll notice something interesting that Dak Prescott, who was number 1 last year, was 29th in 2024. Just did not play very well. Was actually 6th best with a clean pocket in 2024. But under pressure, 3 touchdowns, 7 picks. Not good. Not good at all. 2023, he was coming back from the ACL injury. Let's see where that was. 15th. So, okay. He was graded about the same as Matthew Stafford and also somehow Justin Fields, because pressure is so weird, right? Pressure is so much small sample sizes. Not all pressure is created equal, right? So he was 15th, which is okay. 2022 is an absolutely miserable season for everyone with the Cardinals, but let's see, 26th. This is out of about 40 quarterbacks. And let's go 2021 was his last like truly great season. Let's check that out. 7th. So he's been 7th, 8th, 15th, 30th. It's really all over the map of his performance under pressure during his career. And he was 10th in 2020. So what do we make of this would really be the question, because you're saying, well, he can't win the Super Bowl, which, by the way, just real quick, just because I can't help myself, most people won't win the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, it's really hard to win the Super Bowl. Fran Tarkenton didn't win the Super Bowl. When he retired, Fran Tarkenton was basically like the best quarterback ever. He had all these yardage records and everything. I mean, he wasn't really, I mean, it was like Unitas and Otto Graham, but I mean, Len Dawson, Bart Starr, they probably would have been considered ahead of him when he retired, but he had all of these great numbers. He had multiple Super Bowl appearances. He had the Purple People Eaters. He still didn't win a Super Bowl. So it's really hard to do. But I think if I can make something out of that comment, it's probably the fact that you need Murray to be good under pressure, and it's something that's hard to control. So you can control how often he's under pressure, though. That is really the key. Joker, your question about why he's so accurate, I truly believe, and Aaron, the snaps were fine today. No issues with the snaps today. I truly believe that whether it's Rory McIlroy, who was on British television or whatever it was, chipping golf balls into a laundry chute or whatever it was, into a dryer when he was like 4, or Tiger Woods, or basketball players who are 8 years old, or hockey. Anyone who has hockey playing children knows this, that, man, hockey players, like by the time you're 5 or 6, it's pretty evident. I really think Kyler was one of those people. And I believe if Kyler was 6'3", he'd be Lamar Jackson. Actually, no, he would be a better pure passer than Lamar Jackson at 6'3" with the same running ability. And he would be maybe the most unstoppable quarterback in the NFL if he was 6'3", because he has this Drew Brees-like ability to see out in front of him the matrix and release at the right time, and et cetera, right? But he's not 6'3", but that ability is there. And if he understands the offense the right way, and the receivers make the plays, and the offensive line blocks, and you put him in favorable situations with a run game, and you don't allow him to go up and down. Now, this is something, so I'm going to get Chase Edmonds, a former teammate of his, on the show very soon. I've talked to Chase about it already. I wrote an article that included Chase, who's very close with Kyler, and he's agreed to come on the show at some point. But, Chase said to me that early in his career, he took losses really, really hard. And I still see in his stat sheet and things like that, that there's ups and downs there that I think have to be mitigated. And some of that's pressure and some of that's just maybe personality. So yeah, there are big time factors to everything that are impacted by what's around you. But also I think you could see that he is a natural player. Aaron, would I do a player of the day for offense and defense? That's a great idea. And something that how about this? If I don't remember to do it on Monday, I know you'll be here. Tell me again to do it, because that's a great idea. Once the pads come on, we can really see like, oh, this defensive tackle got after him. A lot of pressure from Dallas Turner today, or, some great catches by Justin Jefferson or whatever. So, yeah, that's a good idea. Josh, the Vikings better be more balanced on offense this year. Totally agree. This is the thing. If Kyler has the capability to be a top 10 clean pocket quarterback, and what today we saw is clean pocket football, there's no one coming after you. So you're just standing there and you're just dropping back and you're making your throws. If this is what it looks like when he can have a clean pocket, then that can be very, very, very good. But we saw under pressure, very erratic. So how do you get him to play in rhythm? And how do you make sure that you're blocking it up? How do you make sure that you're putting him in favorable situations? Because what I noticed in my research was that 3rd and long, Kyler is not good. And what happens on 3rd and long? Blitzes, where do you think they come from? Up the middle. But on 3rd and short, he's really good. Why do you think that is? Because you can run or pass or scramble or get rid of the ball quickly, right? So if you're Kevin O'Connell, you got to figure out, how can I keep Kyler in favorable situations? Right? How do I keep it in favorable situations? That's really important. Hunter, some disagreement upon reporters on how bad it was for McCarthy, but pretty unanimously, it wasn't a good practice for him. I don't know what I would say about it in terms of the total, other than what my tracking would say about it, which is when you have that many negative passes, not too many positive passes, I mean, it's really hard to say that, by the way, there is the person accusing me of taking shots at people. I have no idea what anyone else is saying. I truly don't. Do you think I listen to Vikings podcasts? I'm on here 3 hours a night, guys. I'll tell you who I listen to for podcasts. I listen to Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo every day. Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson Check the Mic podcast every day. That's the podcast I listen to when I'm jogging. That's the podcast I listen to when I'm driving out there. But man, I get enough. I certainly get enough Vikings that's not what I'm doing. But anyway, so anybody who thinks I'm taking shots at anybody is absolutely incorrect. I'm just addressing things that are said in the comments section. But so if you're, quoting somebody else, then sorry. I guess we see things differently. But in terms of like how bad the practice was, I think that it was, for a year 3 quarterback with no pressure, it was not what you want to see. And a lot of the throws were ones that were just there. Like someone asked a good question earlier, and I'm sorry, once the thing gets moving, it gets really moving, which I love, but I can forget to answer questions. So I'm sorry about that. But when it comes down to, when does Kyler get hurt? You guys know he played 31 games in a row, right? After his ACL, played 31 games in a row. So he's injury prone. He had the ACL. He had the foot injury that he was ready to come back from, and then they decided to tank. That's it. I mean, he missed a couple games in 2021. That's it. So he played 31 games in a row. And I keep hearing he's injury prone. I just would like people to look into these things before they say them. But anyway, now I kind of lost the thread a little bit. But, we were talking about how bad JJ was. Someone asked if it was 2s versus 1s. And that was why McCarthy had a tougher practice. And the answer is it mixes. They do all of it. So I've got the list here on my phone. It's 2s versus 1s, 1s versus 2s. It's a mix of all of those things. So some of the plays were probably against the 1s. But the reason that I highlighted certain plays that were problematic from JJ McCarthy is that Zamiah Vaughn is the one who broke up a pass that was maybe the most concerning of the day, where he was just blatantly late on a one-look read, drop back throw to an outbreaker, and Ty Felton is wide open, and the throw is just really late, and it gets broken up by a guy who's never played in the NFL. And the route was fine, and it was on point, and it looked like, this is as routine as it gets. and it gets broken up. And then the one to Jawan Jennings where it just flies over his head. And those are the same things we saw in games where guys would be open and you just cannot miss those. You don't get a lot of slam dunks. It's like in hockey, you don't get a lot of empty nets, right? So if you get an empty net, you got to put it in. And the miss early is an empty netter. You can't miss a check down to Jordan Mason. Like it's right there. That's a check down. So those are the ones that are kind of on the concerning side in terms of how bad it was. But when we talk about like his good plays, like there were good plays. The thing is though, that with McCarthy, there are a lot of the same good plays. So hitting someone down the middle on a hard line drive throw is great. And it was a really good throw and I marked it as a positive and I highlighted it today. But I've kind of seen a lot of that throw from JJ McCarthy. It's one that we know he can make and he made it and it was great. But it's not like, oh, that's the layered ball. That's the timing throw. You know what I mean? So I thought that for a quarterback at this point in his career who has the pedigree that he has, you expect more when it comes to this type of practice. Like you just you expect more of the completions that should have been there. And then there are some where you go, okay, maybe he didn't have anywhere to throw it. We don't know the play calls. We don't know what he's supposed to be looking for. So I tend to give a lot of grace when it comes to these practices to not say, oh my gosh, it was, this or that or the other thing or whatever else. Like I try not to get out of my depth very much. I really don't. But when you're missing wide open people that you're trying to target, then yeah, that's not what it should look like. So Guitar says in KOC, we don't trust in terms of picking quarterbacks. What about veteran quarterbacks? The last veteran and the competition's not neck and neck, Guitar. I know you want it to be. It's simply not. It's just not. It's not in any metric. It's not in me tracking. It's not in the positive throws. It's not in the reps with the first team. It's not. It's just not. It's not in their pasts. I know that people want to talk themselves into it, but that's just not this episode. Vikings TV did something happen with Brandel today. I didn't think so. I didn't see. Now, sometimes I will tell you from the angle that I have, I can see the offensive line in front of me and I see the defensive line in front of me, but I can't always see the snap. Now, if it hits the ground, I'm going to notice, but I cannot always see the snap. So if someone was at practice and, it went a little bit this way or a little bit that way, then I couldn't always really see that. So there might be film from someone in the stands where you could see that it's like this way or that way. But that's a little harder for me to see. So not 100% sure, but there is definitely concerns when it comes to Brandel and the snapping because he doesn't have a lot of experience doing that. He just doesn't. He doesn't have a lot of experience as a center. This is his first time really doing it outside of last year in what was it like 300 snaps, some way, along the way there. So, Josh, you'd rather have prime Stafford over Lamar Jackson? I mean, what are we talking about here? Was this my comment about how he could have been, Lamar Jackson with more crisp accuracy if he was 6'3"? Is that what that's about? Okay, well, great. I would, who I would also like to is Matthew Stafford. Yeah, I agree. Aaron, has it been a slow start for Jennings? I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. I think that slow start just means in terms of targets, a lot of the targets are going to Justin Jefferson because the offense is designed around Justin Jefferson. So there hasn't been a ton that have gone Jawan Jennings' way. I wouldn't have any concern over it. He's taking every single first team rep, basically. Looks totally fine in terms of conditioning or how he's catching the football. He had a drop the other day on like a check down or something, but whatever. So I wouldn't have any concern over that. We are talking about small samples and we are talking about, I think, Kyler Murray making it priority number one. And he has always done this in his career, by the way. You look at Hopkins and the target share, you look at McBride and the target share, like he's always gotten the ball to his number one wide receivers. So I think that early on, it's like, I'm going to come out here and number one target is Jefferson, and that's where I'm going with the ball. Now, as it goes on, you would like to see some more, maybe getting it to Juwan Jennings underneath and things like that. But we're very early. We're only in, what is it? Maybe 15 to 18 passes per day. So 30, 40 passes, somewhere in that range. And so you can't really make a total conclusion about a wide receiver, but he hasn't had a ton. No. Greg says, McCarthy just isn't ready. It's okay to say it. This is a high school type tryout is a distraction to the team. Enough already. Look, I think that your opinion there, Greg, I have nothing wrong with it. I wasn't really big time in favor of a competition that took reps away from Kyler Murray. Although after watching him today, I can't say that it's really hurting him since he had 0 negative plays and the only 3 balls that hit the ground were a pass interference and 2 drops. So, it's definitely not crushing Kyler in his soul to not have these reps early on. But I do think at some point you are going to start to shift toward Kyler, and he's going to have enough time to get ready where they're game planning and everything else like that. And I don't think that it's going to be that deep into training camp after what we've seen so far. If they were going into the padded practices at 50-50 first team reps and just locked in this dead heat and they performed equally and Murray was maybe struggling and McCarthy was maybe making big, next step and everything else, then, look, I would say, yeah, this is going to hurt the starter. But since it's gone Murray's direction, it doesn't look like this is going to go on all summer. I don't think that's the case. Josh, you're saying you'd rather have Brady, Montana, or Stafford over Vic, Newton, and Murray. Why did you pick Vic, Newton, and Murray and not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen when you're talking about the athletes? No one thinks that Kyler Murray is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You know what? I'd rather have Josh, the greatest quarterbacks of all time, than Kyler Murray. I know it's a hot take. I would also rather have the greatest quarterbacks ever. But you know what? The first time that Murray drops back and there's a free running blitzer and he turns it into 25 yards, which feel free to go watch his tape last year even. You'll see it. Maybe you'll feel like that's okay. And if he does, you know what though? Here, you want to talk about Super Bowl winning quarterbacks though. How many Super Bowl winning quarterbacks were at some point in their career written off? Well, Tom Brady, for one, was, if you guys didn't know, he is a 6th round draft pick. So he was written off. And how about Kurt Warner went and played for the Northern Iowa Cornhuskers or something of the Arena League, written off. Sam Darnold last year, written off. Hell, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl if it's never come up before. There's a lot of quarterbacks over history who have succeeded after people have said they can't get it done. And Steve Young was a terrible quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's happened a lot. So I'm not predicting on day 3 of Vikings training camp that they're going to win the Super Bowl. But I think what we saw today is that you could pretty clearly say that Kyler Murray and Justin Jefferson are clicking, and that Kyler looks like he's in total control of the offense thus far to this point, that his accuracy is outstanding as we expected it to be. But when you see it out there, you're like, and that's it. That's all we're at. And with JJ McCarthy, that in order to make this interesting, he's going to have to do a lot is the way I'd look at it. Mr. Mayor, when Kyler starts week 1, then goes on to have a great season. I hope the diehard McCarthy fans won't try to run him out of town like Darnold. Oh boy, I think that's a really fair comment, Mr. Mayor. I really do. Not that I blame any of the fans. The fans didn't make that decision. And when they say in football, if you listen to the fans and you'll be sitting with them, well, they did lose a GM over that decision, or at least, a number of other things. But, I think that what happened in Chicago could be maybe more similar, where people were really committed to Justin Fields. They absolutely love Justin Fields. The Chicago fans were crazy. Like they would go after anybody who disrespected Justin Fields. And then as soon as Caleb Williams was good, they were like, oh, Caleb Williams. Now, where it's different is that with JJ and Sam Darnold, no one had seen JJ McCarthy play yet. So there was the idea of the franchise quarterback and the idea of having to wait longer for the franchise quarterback with a guy that was assumed by Vikings fans and the Minnesota Vikings organization to be not good enough to win the Super Bowl. Sadly for all involved, in that opinion, he won the Super Bowl, but you get the point. Planet Yevon says, I think we should keep McCarthy due to the current contract. Oh, yeah. And, you mean in Kyler, too, if he were to lose the job. I'm in favor of keeping McCarthy, for sure. I am definitely in favor of keeping JJ McCarthy. I didn't see one bad practice and think they should get rid of him. No. Comeback player of the year could go to Kyler Murray. Yes. He is one of the favorites for that on FanDuel. That's true. So just, when you talk about like these, what happened with the McCarthy fans and Sam Darnold, I just think it's very different than right now. If Kyler Murray plays well, then they will, I think, rally behind Kyler Murray. There's a lot of people right now who I can feel it are just really not going easily into the night and are kind of scratching and clawing and holding on to hope that McCarthy will win the job over Kyler Murray. And the way that they're expressing that is not the way that I would do it. The way that people are expressing their kind of holding on to that hope because they really put a lot of emotional investment into JJ McCarthy is to be critical in a lot of ridiculous and untruthful ways of Kyler Murray that we've dispelled a lot of those. And there are truth to all rumors. And I wrote about this and some of the background of all that work ethic stuff and everything else, but it happened a long time ago. And, so I think that we see people just expressing it in an anti-Kyler Murray kind of way, which I just don't think is the right way to do it if you actually like the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I think if you actually like the Minnesota Vikings, as opposed to just one player in JJ McCarthy, the right way to express it would be to say that you hope JJ McCarthy quickly turns it around when the pads get on. He's been given a lot of reps and, in my opinion, a pretty darn fair opportunity from Kevin O'Connell. Anyone who says they didn't give JJ a chance is full of absolute garbage, because getting this many reps, that is not what would happen if it was Nick Mullins as the backup. So, that absolutely not. So he has gotten a fair chance for sure to show what he could do early on. And if things start to click as the summer goes along, then he still, at least as of this moment, has a chance to prove to KOC that he deserves to continue to get these reps. And who knows, maybe it goes all the way into the joint practices, but that's kind of on him to show that. And if he doesn't, then I think you're very safe in saying he just needs more time, and it might not be here at the end of the day. It just might not be at the end of the day. It might not be with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that's the best that you can really do. Austin, how do we realistically account for who the quarterback is throwing to? Well, I mean, look, when it comes to who he's throwing to, JJ McCarthy had an entire year to throw to Justin Jefferson and couldn't do it. So he's going to throw to Justin Jefferson a lot and Kyler, and it's going to be an advantage in practice. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's gonna help. But also when guys are wide open, and he's gotten first team reps. He's also gotten first team reps. And when guys are wide open, then you need to be able to hit them. That's all. Sorry, we're gonna work on a little block action here. Sorry about that, guys. I really try not to do that. I try to give everybody a chance, but every once in a while we got to do it. Let's see. FanDuel question of the day was, Kyler keeps looking like this in practice with Justin Jefferson, who's plus 1,800 to win Offensive Player of the Year. Then what's the ceiling? What is the ceiling for the Vikings offense? Bill says pulling for JJ, but less snaps with the ones doesn't seem like a fair comp. I mean, This idea that he's not been given a fair chance is just complete BS. I got to be honest. The fact that he's being given any chance is impressive, actually, from KOC to give every quarterback the best opportunity that they possibly could to really tell you the truth. I mean, it's not something I would have done. I would have looked at their pasts and their performance and the data and the history and said, to me, this is just Kyler Murray's job. And so I think KOC has given him every opportunity. And when you have like a day like today where Murray, this is what I don't fully understand is the reaction. And I try to talk about the facts a lot more than the reaction. But now that we're like an hour and 20 minutes into this, like I might as well, right? Like the reaction to me, if you like the Minnesota Vikings, of Kyler Murray having this phenomenal day with Justin Jefferson, if your reaction is it's probably BS and not fair to JJ McCarthy, I think you got to look yourself in the mirror, man. I mean, I truly think that you got to look yourself in the mirror and be like, what am I doing? Truly, what am I doing? What has happened to my brain if this is how I'm acting? Because like, do you buy Vikings jerseys? Do you buy tickets? Do you buy, like, it's just baffling. You can do whatever you want. That's between you and Roger Goodell. But like, when it comes to just my viewpoint on it, sitting as someone who doesn't have any skin in the game, other than I'm going to talk about it a lot, it just is the most perplexing thing. I mean, I just can't imagine too many other teams. I imagine Mike Zimmer. Would Mike Zimmer have given JJ McCarthy this much extra time for a chance? So no way. Absolutely not. Most teams, I think, after a performance like that, and they get a veteran quarterback with this background, are just playing that guy. So I think O'Connell has given a fair number. It's not 0 first-team reps with Justin Jefferson, but when Justin Jefferson has been in with JJ McCarthy, he has not found him, even in the reps that he's gotten. Is that Velosing? I don't know what that is. Did it look like the offensive line can run wide zone? So the offensive line in the run game has been a big conversation. We won't really get a sense of that until there is padded practices there, but they should have an edge here with some young defensive tackles. It should look good. And they have looked pretty on point so far, and they've talked excitedly about it. But I mean, we're really going to need to see it. I just feel like the offensive lineman being healthy is such a big deal. Over at the newsletter, purpleinsider.football, I had a great conversation with Will Fries, who told me that basically last year, it hurt all last year, that recovery. It was never right. And he played 17 games. And when it came to Christian Darrisaw, we know what he went through. He was elated when we spoke to him about health. And I don't think that you're being like overly rosy to say these healthy players who, when they were previously healthy, were really good, are healthy again. So the center just becomes, continually a discussion because he's been a backup through his career. But the other guys, I mean, they have been healthy and very good in their careers, and the health hurt them from last year. And so I think that there's a good chance that, we could see the offensive line come together in the run game and everything else. It has to stay healthy. They do have a couple of good backup tackles, but it has to stay healthy. And it feels like they are pushing hard on that. And it really feels like KOC, the way he's talking, and he had a long answer today about the run game and why he's excited about it. It feels like this is something that they have put a massive emphasis on, and now you have to see it. Like, you can't just tell us you've done it, and you can't just get a fullback and, get your offensive line healthy. It's got to happen, right? But it is, like, as I watch it, something that I'm starting to feel like, okay, you can convince me potentially with the way Jordan Mason has looked so far, and Claiborne with his, his quickness and so forth. You guys, sometimes you guys are funny. Next year it'll be Baker Mayfield. Maybe. I mean, this is Vikings history, right? This is Vikings history. So, it's always another quarterback, but that's the other conversation I just don't really totally understand is like, are we drafting someone? Like, what? We are at August 1st. Can we have a little excitement about football? Please, maybe. So Skull since 77 says Vikings first, so I'll pull for Kyler Murray, even though I'm pulling for JJ to be our long-awaited franchise guy. Still time to develop. Need JJ to stay patient and engaged to reach his full potential. Skull since 77, why are you a rational person? Brees has heard someone say Kyler was working with the first team offense, but going against the second team defense. Yeah, that's another kind of thing that people are trying to, like, I don't know, downplay what a great day it was or something. One thing is that they do that a lot. I actually did a story on this when Sam Darnold was the quarterback, so it's not uncommon for them to do. They've done it every year of KOC. They mix. There was one run of 1s versus 3s that JJ McCarthy was in today. So it's a mix, and they like to get a look at the backup players and how they look against the starters on both sides. So they'll go 2s versus 1s, 1s versus 2s, 1s versus 1s. So they're having all of them out there and mixing and matching. It's not just Kyler 1s versus backups. That's not what it is. It's a mix and a match. So we've seen plenty of 1s versus 1s. And in all circumstances today, 1s versus 1s, 1s versus 2, 1 versus Carl Eller and Alan Page, like Kyler didn't miss a pass all day. So, let's see. There's Nathan with a good question. Where do you see Dominique Orange fitting in come the regular season? I've noticed that he's taken mostly second team stuff so far, and I've seen a lot of Levi Drake Rodriguez with the first team. I'm curious to see if he is like a starter by the end of this training camp, or it's more rotational player in certain circumstances and then see where it goes with someone like Dominique Orange. I would see him, if you're giving the absolute ideal D-line, it's Caleb Banks at 3 technique, maybe even pushed out over the tackle a little bit, but he was lining up today. 3 technique it makes a lot of sense. All that is just between the B gap or the tackle and the guard. I love that for him. There's more space out there. You can kind of build up some acceleration on the first step rather than just getting hit immediately by a guard and a center who are double teaming. So Caleb Banks there, Dominique Orange directly over the center, just overpowering the center with pure girth. And then Jalen Redmond on the other side, and then rotate in Levi Drake Rodriguez. Another guy to watch, though, is Ty Ingram Dawkins at defensive end, where with the first team, he's played a ton, and he's been outside linebacker and DE, and I think he looks really good. He's put a lot of work into. I talked to him about it the other day. He's Ty Ingram Dawkins. I wrote about it, purpleinsider.football, about my conversation with Ty, how he reshaped his offseason to be a defensive end outside linebacker and not so much a defensive tackle. So, I think there's a lot of intrigue there. There's a lot of, well, what if it doesn't work, for sure, but there's also a lot of intrigue. And I wrote down today, one of my notes was, let me grab it. One of my notes was Gavin Bartholomew had a good day. I left that out of my notes. Sorry, Gavin. He's looked good. Honestly, going to try to catch up with him in one of these practices next week. Also, for all of you watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, I have something for you that's coming next week, an interview that you're going to really love. Like maybe Tuesday. Trust me. It was, Elijah Williams. That's the guy not to forget. Elijah Williams, Loudermilk, and Orange were playing on the second team a lot today, and Williams was mixing and matching. Don, is it Engie? Don Engie? Appreciate everything you do. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for logging in here and watching, and all of you who have spent, these couple of days. I was thinking to myself, I don't know, it's a Saturday. I think it's Saturday. How many people are going to, be interested? And here we are with a big audience. I was planning on playing my interview with Andrew Krammer in the first hour if there was nobody watching, but here we are. So I am really enjoying the discussion with you guys. Nathan, who's going to win the punting job? They were punting today. I actually have video. They were punting today. To tell you the truth, Johnny Hecker was on point with some of the punts today. Thorson, I'm going to have to watch close with Thorson. Sometimes I'm not standing in a great spot to really evaluate the punt. I'm just sort of seeing him go, doof, and kick it up in the air. But Hecker looked to me like he was really directionally hitting some good punts today. But maybe we'll get a real competition. Robbins has not sold. The Packers are a better team. I mean, when you go top to bottom, Micah Parsons missing a part of the season, and they're asking now Matthew Golden to step up with Romeo Doubs gone. That's a big question mark for them. Their offensive line remains a question mark. You go through the defense, everybody is decidedly worse when you don't have Micah Parsons there, and we saw that last year. So, I really think that the Packers are the classic kind of 10-win team, and the Vikings, I don't want to say, this sounds so corny, but I want to use a very corny phrase here. They kind of control their own destiny, because I think you have Chicago that's going to be good, but maybe regress a little. And you have Detroit, who I think we know is going to be very competitive with the easy schedule. But if you get to 11 wins, you're probably getting in the playoffs, right? So whether the division turns out to be unbelievable or whether the division turns out to be disappointing, kind of like it was last year, if you win 11 games, you're making the playoffs. And that's where you should set the bar. So that's kind of how I think of it. But I agree with you that the Packers are probably the team that I have the most questions about of all of them, because Chicago and Ben Johnson and their offense, I think really works building off the run game. And with Caleb Williams, I don't know if he's going to make huge progress or not, but I think they can win games and be good. Where the Packers, I don't think they have a very good roster, just top to bottom. Like Josh Jacobs wasn't really the same last year. Their offensive line struggled. They don't have Parsons for 6 weeks and then he has to come back from an ACL. Like, what does that look like? We talked about it last year, how it was a lot of average, and I'm not even sure it's all completely average. Hamza, do you agree that the Vikings defense rookie class has the potential to be the best? Sorry, it flipped on me, but I assume you mean in a while. I do. Yes. I do think that it has the potential to be very, very good. And I don't want to go overboard right now because, we're too early for that. But when you see someone like Chuck Demings, a 5th-round draft pick, getting a ton of work, it catches your eye. Like, that's something you look for. Like, wow, okay, somebody was out today, but he jumped in and he played a lot. And then when you see, somebody like Jake Golday, the way he moves and is making a play already today, but just looks very locked in, how do you put this with a linebacker? Like, he's got some intensity to him as a linebacker. He may end up being an inside linebacker. I mean, they drafted him to be Van Ginkel, but he looks natural at that position. Just from what I've seen so far, they might end up having him be that. It does look like Banks is the one who swings it for sure. Where if Caleb Banks turns out to be even good, the draft class has a chance to be excellent. If he goes bust, then that's where it's going to, be most of the focus on that, even if there are going to be other guys who work out. And I think that there will be. Norris Force, how does the running back group look so far? I mean, I think with Claiborne's speed, Xavier Scott does a lot of good things that, he's not the new shiny toy like he might have been last year, but he is a pass protector. He is a pass catcher. He's a reliable guy for them last year when he had to come in. And Mason looks great. I mean, Mason looks, I think I say great, but I try to be more specific than that. Mason looks quicker. Like, he is a big man, and there's no chance that he is Barry Sanders out there, but his short area, like chopping of the feet, turning directions, I think you can see where putting the effort into the body would make a pretty big difference there. So, how did Golday look today, Tim? Oh, he had a play that he made on the ball. I'm pretty sure it was him. Sometimes somebody sticks a hand up and bounces the ball in the air for a deflection. You're like, who was that? I think it was Jake Golday that got his hand on the ball. He's each day just the size, the height, the quickness. When you see a linebacker drop back, it's not always smooth. It can look robotic. It can look kind of like their feet are in sand. He is quick when he's dropping back into coverage. And he looks very, just intense. So, I mean, pads, of course, every time. But I really like how Jake Golday has looked so far and getting a ton of work with the second group. So I expect that, maybe we'll see him rotate a little with the first group. He's been exclusively an inside linebacker. hasn't played from what I've seen at all really on the outside. That might be where he ends up sticking. But if that ends up being the case, you can always do things with Wilson, on the outside linebacker. TSB, who looks for the most first team snaps at safety. So yes, Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, and here has been a development is Jay Ward has been the big nickel or just the nickel pretty much every day now. And even if they're having different corners on the outside, it's been Jay Ward a lot. And it looks like to me that, when they drafted Jay Ward, it was, is he a safety? Is he an outside corner? Is he an inside corner? But from a skill set perspective, a big nickel is kind of how Jay Ward looks. Like, he's not the biggest safety in the world. He's got a little more quickness than your typical safety. And he plays with a lot of aggression. You need, if you're going to play a nickel, at all, just nickel defense, your guy who plays the slot has to be able to tackle. And Jay showed last year that he could definitely tackle. Sean says if McCarthy sits as a backup, that will pay dividends. Lots of reps for the backup during the season. Well, when you're getting the team ready and you're going through a lot of those scout team things, if you're going to be willing to do it, that's what it's going to come down to. This goes for just in general. This right now for JJ McCarthy is a pretty tough moment. Kyler Murray just shredded that practice, and the whole world's talking about how bad it was for JJ. I would not at all. By the way, I wouldn't say it was like an atrocity. I just thought that for a third-year quarterback, like, you do need to hit the passes that are there in an unpadded practice, and some of them just didn't happen. But I don't think his career's over. It's just it wasn't a good practice, and it happens, and it happens to inexperienced quarterbacks. But you got to come back on Monday and play well. And these are the adversities and things that it's sort of like this. It's like a crash course in adversity. He never went through any adversity really in college. And this is why I say that you never know. This is why every draft season I'm like, I like one guy more than the other, but who the heck knows? Because no one can tell you what it's really like in the NFL. So he's getting hit with a lot of adversity for the first time. And it's about how he deals with it and where he can, go from there. And this is one of those times. Like, this is a day where it's going to be pretty tough, I think, on JJ McCarthy going home from practice, but you got to look at the tape and you got to look at what happened and develop from there. I know some people just shouting. I don't want to spend too much time on people shouting at clouds because you're just being difficult for no reason to try to derail the show or whatever. But, I do think that with McCarthy, though, it's like every athlete goes through this at some point, most of the time. Not Justin Jefferson, but at some point, most NFL players will have moments where it's like a crossroads for them or a fork in the road where this is either going to go one way or the other. And with McCarthy, we're kind of getting there. Doesn't mean it's over. It just means, is this going to go in a direction where, regardless of whether he wins the job or not, that he has done everything possible and he has pushed as hard as he could and he's made a lot of progress and he feels proud of what he's done? Or is it going to be kind of a moment that, he just sort of gets frustrated or it feels like it's not fair or whatever else? Like, some of you making all the excuses are funny to me because it's like NFL players who are the best have the exact opposite mentality of what you're talking about. Well, I didn't get this rep with this guy and I should have had this with this guy. It's like, do you think that the best NFL players think that way? I don't think so. So we're going to kind of learn about him as we go forward in this process because this is something that he has not seen before. Let me get you again a little message from our sponsors and a reminder of the FanDuel question of the day, which is Justin Jefferson plus 1,800 to win Offensive Player of the Year. After today's excellent Kyler Murray practice, what do you think the ceiling for the offense can be if he connects like this with Justin Jefferson? But I do want to tell you about the great sleep that I've been having. You notice, I think that I've had a lot more patience with trolling people. And you know why? It's probably because I'm getting some good sleep. these nights. And that is because of the Aurora Lux mattress, which I got from Brooklyn Bedding. I mean, folks, I didn't know that it was going to be the best day of 2026 outside of the first day of camp. It was when my new mattress arrived, but that's how it's been. Their mattresses are cost effective, but built for long-term durability right here in the USA. And my mattress does not feel mass-produced or disposable. It's solid, it's intentional, it's built to last, and that is what you expect from the American craftsmanship. So we switched to this bed. It's been a game changer for the wife and I. The spine is good, and you know what's awesome too is we got to pick exactly what we wanted. Not one size fits all. They offer mattresses for everybody, every sleep style, even hard to find sizes. They'll get it for you, and if we didn't love it, we do, but if we didn't, we would have 120 days on their comfort trial to swap it or return the mattress hassle-free. So check it out, brooklynbedding.com, and my promo code is PURPLE. 30% off is a huge amount, guys. So brooklynbedding.com, at least go check it out with the promo code PURPLE if you're considering getting a new mattress. I mean, 30% off is pretty big. Also, wanted to mention that, you know, all the time I'm going to restaurants or, gosh, going to the airport or wherever, like traveling, doing stuff around the house, I rely on a lot of other people. And you know what is great is when somebody goes the extra mile just to give me a hand. You know, maybe they hold the doors if you're late for a flight for one more second and just to get you on, something like that. Well, that's the type of person that you want to hire too. So if you're a hiring manager, you want to check out ZipRecruiter. They have their ways of finding out who stands out from the others. So you can go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now to have a free trial. They have matching technology that helps you find qualified candidates quickly, and those candidates tell you in their own words why they're interested in the job. So you can, figure out, like, are these people really all that interested in your job, or are they just sort of throwing an application in? It is no wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site. So try ZipRecruiter, meet great candidates who go the extra step for you. 4 out of every 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free today. ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. So here's my plan. I'm very, very pleased that so many of you have comments and thoughts and all those things. TSB, the snaps I thought were okay, but if someone was in the stands and could see a little bit better, then you might know. ACM want all the news on the rookies and Gavin Bartholomew and Ty Felton. Well, I can tell you this, that Gavin Bartholomew has been involved every day. Ty Felton is been a mixed bag for me. There's been some balls that I thought maybe he could have brought in. There's been some other ones where he's made some nice catches. And I think that that's the development of Felton. He's been way more involved this year than he was last year early on in practice. We've just seen a lot of him. So I think that they're getting him as many reps as they possibly can. And then Miles Price is a really interesting one too. Price put in a lot of work this offseason to be ready to play wide receiver. He did not make a catch on a phenomenal, outstanding throw by JJ McCarthy today, but he has made a lot of catches in the early days of practice, and I'm curious to see if they are intrigued by him. So, okay, you guys are funny. But here's my thought is that because, of course, I was not saying that Kyler is Lamar Jackson or Fran Tarkington, but if you want to take it that way, go ahead. Just do whatever you want. I don't care. But Andrew Krammer is going to come up in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to get to as many of the comments as I possibly can in the next 15 minutes or so. And then there's a long discussion with Andrew Krammer about his viewpoint on Kyler Murray's practice today, JJ McCarthy. So it's a little bit of don't take my word for it, because also here's another reporter just in case. What position do I think the Vikings will invest in before week 1? Jay, they do have, at least according to overthecap.com, they have that it would be $21 million at the moment in cap space, which is not really a ton because you want to keep some around just in case there's like a major injury or a big trade opportunity. So I don't really know if there's going to be like a big move that they're going to make at some point when it comes to using that $21 million. But I think if I'm Nolan Teasley, what I'm doing is I'm putting it in my back pocket. and I'm waiting around to see what opportunities arise. I really like Vita Vea. It's probably not the most applicable move to this roster at the moment since you drafted 2 defensive tackles, but gosh, it would be pretty good to have Vita Vea on this team, wouldn't it? And I really like watching that guy play, so, there you go. But when it comes to their opportunities, they will probably have opportunities to make moves at the trade deadline or right before the season. So if they really they think Kyler's going to win the friggin' Super Bowl, I guess you could make some moves there. We're still all looking at outside linebacker and how that plays out. Maybe they want to see the next week or two with the pads to kind of make a decision there. But I really think it could be any part of the roster outside of like wide receiver. We also don't know who's going to get hurt because there is always the possibility of someone getting injured. And if someone gets hurt, then, you have to make a move. But I don't know. I think it's a trade deadline thing. I'm going to keep saying it. I think it's a trade deadline thing unless there's an injury that they will kind of roll with this and maybe add one free agent possibly at some point. But aside from that, more likely than not, this is going to be your team to start and then see where it goes. The trade deadline is more active than it's ever been in the NFL today. So you don't have to do it right away. Norris Force, is Jay Ward getting reps with the ones, or is that Theo's job? So it's been different jobs. Theo Jackson has been the free safety, where Metellus has been the strong safety, and Jay has been the big nickel, which could change, I guess, but that looks like what they want to do with those guys. I don't know, M. Haas, if Claiborne was hurt or not. We did not have a chance to ask anyone after practice, so I'll have to wait and see on Monday if he's back. I would assume that it was something that they didn't want him to practice. Otherwise, he would have been in there. Xavier Scott got a ton of work. One of you who went to practice said you didn't expect to see that much Xavier Scott. Look, last year we're talking about Xavier Scott as an emerging guy. I wrote an article on him, purpleinsider.football. You can check it out. So he is a capable player, and they like him, and he's very, very smart when it comes to pass protection. He's got very good hands, former wide receiver. It's just that like the new shiny toy is always more exciting, and Claiborne is exciting. But that'll be something we're keeping an eye on, is whether he's healthy or it was just needed a day off. Greg, McCarthy will hit his stride in 4 to 5 years playing for Harbaugh. I suppose so. Could happen. I'm glad that Alec was counting the official first team reps as well. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Cody. I mean, Cody says that the worst thing for McCarthy is that he struggled in front of the fans. Yeah, I mean, I think for the fans, it was a great show today. They saw a lot of Justin Jefferson. They saw a lot of big throws down the field. Like, if you went today, you probably had a pretty good time. But with McCarthy struggling a little bit, there is a ramping up when the fans show up. There is another level, and one player rose to the next level, which I know it's just a practice, but sort of rose to the occasion and had a really good practice, and the other struggled, which, happens. These practices are not consistent. It's not like everyone goes 100 for 100 every time, but it was probably a level of struggling during a practice that you wouldn't see a lot from a starting quarterback. I would just say that. And last year there were practices that were like this for McCarthy too, but what we did was we said, all right, well, it's coming along and this is a tough day. I mean, go look at the night practice last year, my podcast from there. And it was like, look, he's coming along. It's going to take time. We'll see how it goes. And then he would have a bounce back practice. So we'll see if that happens again here, but there just can't be too many of these where there's, what did I have it at, like 6 negative plays? Like that it just can't really be like that in a practice where the degree of difficulty is not a 10 out of 10. The degree of difficulty for an unpadded practice where there's no pressure should be more like a 4 out of 10. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like in front of the fans, especially, he's got a lot of fans who are there to see him, but it wasn't like a travesty. It was just not a good day. Iowa Barnstormers. Oh, they have great helmets. I would love to see that. Maybe I'll look that up. Iowa Barnstormers is who Kurt Warner played for. Have we, Matt, have we crowned Johnny Hekker the starter? I mean, probably did see punting. Probably Johnny Hecker's going to be the guy because Brett Thorson could be developed for a year as the international exception. But I really believe that it's going to be in the games that we decide the punting. Practice punting just doesn't really simulate it. Let's see. Adept Montana was called too small right away. Yeah, well, he was a 3rd round draft pick, but I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks throughout history who've been written off. A lot of quarterbacks who played for other teams that did not work out with those teams and then won elsewhere or had really good careers. And I know that some of you are always going to say, well, if they don't win the Super Bowl, then it's the worst season ever and there's no reason to watch or whatever else. I mean, I don't know how you go through life like that personally. I like football too much to go through life like that, to say that every season that doesn't end in the Super Bowl is a complete waste of time. That seems like you might need to, like, I don't know, go fishing or something and just maybe have some zen in your life. But I mean, there is a discussion to be had about the end game here. I mean, if it's Kyler, do you believe you can win a Super Bowl with him? I think really you want to find that out. If, Jim Monis was on the show, former NFL executive, former NFL scout, and he said, if you could put together a top 10 offense, you can compete for a Super Bowl as a quarterback. And I mean, it's a simple way to look at it, but it's also not true. Or I mean, it is true. It's like not wrong. I meant to say that if you could put together a top 10 offense, then if you have the right things with defense, if you have the right schedule, you face the right people, you've got yourself a chance. So I think we know how we're going to find that out with Kyler Murray. But for the current situation, so that's a long-term question. For the current situation, it's like, well, what do you want him to do? The person who says, well, I'd rather have Matthew Stafford, I'm like, would you like them to trade for Matthew Stafford? That's like the WNBA reference. People who are like, are they going to trade Nafisa Collier? You're like, no. So no one's going to trade you Josh Allen. So the next best thing is a guy who's very, very talented, very accurate, seems to be doing great with Justin Jefferson, and you take your best shot. With the best defensive coordinator in the league, the best wide receiver, you take your best shot and see what happens. And then at the end of the road, we'll have an idea of how far he can really go. Jared says, I do want to see Kyler out of curiosity. Could be explosive. Not sure if it's available with JJ McCarthy yet. I think it could be in the near future. Sure, it could be. It definitely could be. There's all sorts of scenarios where Kyler starts and then it doesn't work out and McCarthy plays and then we see where that goes from there and maybe it clicks. But he is explosive when throwing to Justin Jefferson so far. And he has great quickness that we haven't even seen on display and scrambling ability. But that's the thing about these first couple practices, all from the pocket, hasn't really escaped the pocket at all. And he comes out of these first couple days running the offense from the pocket, looking pretty darn good. If that continues, that is going to, kind of increase that conversation about what this can really be. M. Hans, JJ did not look confident today. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that there were a couple throws early on that just looked like, man, you got to lock in because that guy's wide open. Like that should be your throw. And sometimes there is just that little lapse because it's not natural. That's the thing about being a natural thrower versus learning to throw at this level. And when I mean like natural thrower, he's way the hell better than all of us at throwing a football, but not in comparison to Murray or Drew Brees or any of these other guys who have a natural touch. And you see Josh Allen still do this, by the way. Josh Allen just makes up for it with his greatness, but Josh Allen still has these little lapse throws that you're just like, what the heck was that, dude? Like you still see it. So that's where concentration is a big part of it because you got to be in on the technique all the time. It's also reps. Yeah, I don't think that's really true about Kirk, K. Cruz. I don't think that Kirk was a top 5 quarterback here. But I also don't think that fans hated Kirk Cousins either. I think that fans couldn't wait for Kirk to get here and were hoping that he could take them to another level. And it didn't happen. And that wasn't all Kirk's fault, but it also was some of Kirk's limitations. And then it might happen with Kyler. Like, I think that if you're saying that some of the limitations concern you, then you should, you're being completely fair by saying that some of the limitations concern you. And I think really when it comes to Kevin O'Connell and his job this year, it is how do you mitigate the limitations? That is the main job of Kevin O'Connell here, because the good things that he can do, he does them really well. So anyway, could be a top 5 offense joker. That seems a little high. I don't mean to miss some of the comments here. I'm trying to scroll as much as I can. Mr. Husker says, I feel like you've had a great barometer about the prospects for the team if they can make a run. Does this feel like one of those teams? Mr. Husker, sometimes I have, and sometimes I miss. I mean, last year was definitely a miss. But when you ask me this question, like if you're going to be a regular here on the live show, I hope you are, ask me this question again in like 2 weeks. Because normally what I will do at the end or deep into camp at some point, I'll sort of give the vibe check. I will give the, what do I think coming out of training camp? And you're right that historically it's been okay. 2018, I was really worried. 2019, I thought they would be pretty darn good, but I didn't think they were a Super Bowl type team. 2020, I just was a disaster and was really skeptical on that team. 2021, again, like the vibes were so awful in 2021 that I thought, well, they're good, but they're very thin, and I don't like the way that they're treating each other. And 22, though, I would say that I was pretty shocked at the result. I thought that they were going to be probably a 9 or 10 win team with a happier locker room, and I didn't see 13 coming. 2023, the vibe was kind of like, okay, a lot of stuff's going to have to go right for them to be really good. And 24 coming out of camp, I thought, oh yeah, this team, I remember in Berea, after the, that's in Ohio for all of you who haven't been to Berea, but, so I was in Ohio and doing a podcast with Alec Lewis in probably the echoiest place of all time. You walk into this tiny little box to check in to go out to their practice field. And we were like, can we do a podcast in here? So anyway, there's somewhere is a very echoey podcast in Berea, Ohio with me and Alec Lewis. And we were talking about, the defense looks so good in 24. They should probably go get Stephon Gilmore. And with Darnold, this thing could be serious, right? And it turned out to be that way. So, I will have a vibe check for you, but I need to know who stays healthy throughout camp. I mean, look at the Panthers. They've lost half their roster. Cyrus Allen got hurt. He was somebody who was shining for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, gosh, it happens. And if that happens here, then I'm going to have different questions. So I want to see some things develop. I want to see the DTs. I want to see the preseason games. I want to feel what it's like with Kyler after a long, hot summer, not just after one really good practice. After today, man, I mean, geez, like, after today, it was like, this looked really good, but we've had that happen before, Adept O-line will show how it is during the joint practices. Yeah, great point. Yep, that's a great point. KOC cannot wait 7 years for JJ to pull a Sam resurgence. No, that's totally true. And if this was the Arizona Cardinals, I'd be all about playing him and just see where it goes. You just can't do that right now, which is okay. Okay, that's funny. JJ's lost fewer Super Bowls than Tom Brady. That's funny. Toll House says, like the new GM, going to trust his process. I want to see him make a million moves so that I can know faster how good he is. But since it's not really the time of year to do it, the first real hurdle will be the end of training camp. Do you try to increase the talent on the roster based on what you've seen? And then the next hurdle will be, do you trade away? Do you acquire at the deadline? Do you make a big move? Because this is a lot of win now type players. Interesting place to be for him. Jay, what 2 players will be his go-to this year when passing? Well, I mean, the obvious answer would be Jefferson and Addison. I think he's had chemistry with those guys so far. I haven't seen as much of Hockenson and Juwan Jennings, but what you really want is just Justin Jefferson to be the go-to. Because if that's the case, then that's going to be good for your offense. It's been that way. Melkill going deep into the roster. Do you think McGlothern will make the roster? Unfortunately, I don't. He's taken third team reps. If you go from a guy who was kind of thought of as being real interesting as a UDFA to being a backup to taking third team reps, it's not the greatest sign. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be it. Haas, Felton looked good today. Made a lot of plays. Yeah, I think Felton has looked confident today. I do want to catch up with him at some point. I've talked to Will Fries, talked to Ty Ingram Dawkins, wrote stories on those, and a couple other guys. Chuck Demings today, which will be in my recap over at purpleinsider.football. So go check that out. But anyway, well, a lot of good stuff though. A lot of good stuff from you guys. Mostly, there's always look with any fan base when it comes to quarterbacks, there's always going to be a lot of opinions. There's going to be a lot of emotion to it. So we're just going to continue to cover it the best way possibly can. Do it with the data. Do it with, and I try to run by. Because I have, like Andrew and Will Raggett and Dane, and we're all kind of standing around. Judd, Seifert, like we're in the same little huddle. So when there's positive or negative throws, I'm not just giving my own opinion. I'm usually asking those guys, like, what did you think of that throw? I was like, is that a positive? Is that a negative? Trying to track them the best I possibly can. I don't know a better way to do it unless KOC gave me a total recap off to the side. He said, you're doing a great podcast. Why don't I tell you what I thought of every throw? It could be better that way. Oak Dog, remember last year, the things we were doomed about was the return game. What's this year's thing to stress about? Punter or center? It's probably center. If he fumbles a snap in a joint practice, then yeah, it's probably center. I mean, Brandel was okay last year, but the snapping certainly was an issue at times. And maybe I've just got that one that flew over Wentz's head. So that's probably the thing to stress over. I don't think Johnny Hekker, he's a proven punter. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Wright, but he's a proven punter. It's probably the D-line. It's probably the D-line to stress over of, like, is Caleb Banks going to look like a guy throughout the summer? And if he does, then, this could be pretty good. But if it's a slow process, then you're going to go, is that going to be good enough? But a lot of good stuff. Jason says, what does this team need more? A dynamic running back or a legit number one corner? Yeah, unfortunately, neither one of those things are really available. But number one corner would be incredible. Like that, you think about how Belichick won those Super Bowls. They had Tom Brady. That was mildly helpful. And every one of them seemed to have like a real true number one center. What am I talking about? Hockey? True number one corner. When it was Ty Law, or when it was Darrelle Revis or Aqib Talib, or there were a bunch of them, right? That he usually had excellence at corner. And I think that you need that in order to have a truly elite defense. They've got good corners. I think both corners are very good. I think Byron Murphy's very good. I think Isaiah Rodgers is very good. They're both solid quality starting NFL corners in the league, but it's not like a Patrick Surtain type of level or a Sauce Gardner type of level. A good running back would help a heck of a lot though. It's just when it comes to positional value, I would always lean toward the corner because they're harder to find than running backs, but both would be great. If they had somebody like Bijan Robinson, what would we be saying about this offense? Jim, Banks, and Orange were my top two choices going in the draft, and the Vikings ended up with both. My head exploded. Then they picked Claiborne, one of the better running backs I researched. Look, when they drafted Banks, the thing that I brought up was that history's not always kind to guys with these numbers. But there's also not many guys who are this size, which might change things. And we don't know what he would have done in 2025. That's the hard part too. Like, we don't know what he would have done in 2025. We only know what happened in 2024. We don't know the data we don't have for Caleb Banks. And with Dominique Orange, his 2024 was better than 2025. But when you add up both of them, and Levi Drake Rodriguez and Jalen Redmond, you got a lot of talent, that's for sure. Redmond has proven it. There's a lot of youth there, a lot of strength there. It's going to be interesting. So am I up to 16,000 subscribed yet? I don't know if I am or not. It's not true one-on-one yak that Kyler had 3 bad practices. They had only had 2 before today. I mean, it's a pretty bad credibility issue when you say the wrong number of practices. Plus, you weren't there, and I was. And I tracked every pass. Can't make everybody happy. Matt, you're a big Xavier Scott fan. It's actually spelled with a Z, believe it or not. But yeah, he's an interesting player for like an RB3. I think that he could be useful on those third downs. Jim, days 8 to 12 of camp are the most intriguing for me. Everyone is adjusted to the grind. Yeah, no, that's true. That's when you really see it. That's the dog days and when things really start to emerge. Yeah. So we're not there yet. ACM Jordan Addison would probably be a wide receiver. I assume you mean the best wide receiver on the Packers. I think that Watson, number 1 wide receiver. Watson is very good. He's different than Addison. Addison would be more consistent. So, sorry if I didn't get all the way through the comments. I mean, a lot of people are kind of repeating the same stuff. So I think I will just, Kay, I am not the only Minnesota media member who tells the truth. There are many. We've got a great crew. You just got to follow the right people. I can tell you who they are. They come on the show. If somebody comes on the show, then they have my endorsement. Then I believe in them. Then I believe that they are doing the best they possibly can. Smart people, which Andrew Krammer is coming up next. But Andrew Krammer, Ben Gessling, Emily Leiker, Mark Craig, is kind of the OG. I haven't had Mark on the show, but not because of like anything. He's still, he's great. Kevin Seifert and Judd and Alec Lewis, like these are the guys who are Dane Mizutani, of course. Like we're the ones that are there every single day at every single thing. Now, I'm not saying that no one else has good opinions. There's a lot of people with good opinions. I was chatting with Ben Lieber today. I'm hoping to get him on the show at some point. It's great. Like there's a lot of great people in this media, and I hope that you guys appreciate that because there's a lot of genuine people, and I don't know that that's always true for medias. I promise you. There's a lot of genuine people here who do the best they can. So it's definitely not just me, but I appreciate that. Anyway. Okay. Well, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say this. Thank you everybody for a really fun chat. I mean, huge audience. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. Really, really interesting conversation breaking down this day's practice. Andrew Krammer is coming up next on the show. So this is just going to be he and I talking everything that happened today at practice. And then tomorrow I rest in my Aurora Lux. And then on Monday, Dane Mizutani and I will break down the first padded practice. And of course, I will give you the charting and break all that down and the chatting and everything else as well. So enjoy my conversation with Andrew Krammer of the Star Tribune and know that these first 4 days have been really interesting and really fun with you guys. And for the people who have been really good in the comments, I appreciate you and some of your patience. For the other folks, maybe take a deep breath sometimes. But it's been really good. It's been really good. So here's myself and Andrew Krammer right after practice today. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Purple Insider presented by FanDuel. Matthew Coller here along with Andrew Krammer of the Star Tribune. We have just walked off the field at TCO Performance Center after watching the Vikings' third and final unpadded practice of training camp. Now, Andrew, they get a day off and then the pads come on and camp really begins. But I'm not going to waste a whole heck of a lot of time getting to the question about how you have viewed the quarterback competition. Why don't we just get it out there? Give me your take on 3 days of quarterback competition between JJ McCarthy and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, as two people who have sat there and watched all 3 days, not just kind of taking one day out of context, the reps and performances have been tilting toward Kyler Murray, especially these last 2 days. What we just saw today Was Kyler Murray's best practice as a Minnesota Viking. It's very early. It's August 1st, but he went 8 for 8 passing with the first team offense. He got 16 reps with the starters compared to JJ's 10, 8 throws compared to JJ's 5. Each guy got 50% passing with his reps. But the completions were not equal, and nor was the difficulty level of what they were doing. You see Kyler pushing the ball downfield. You see him reading a blitz by Jay Ward and throwing into the vacated area. It looks professional. It looks like adult quarterbacking, and JJ's still trying to get there to do those things. I think people take it as a slight on the young McCarthy if we say he's not ready yet, when his own coaches have shown that by bringing in Kyler Murray to do exactly what he's been doing. So is it going to be perfect with Kyler? Is it going to always look great? No, but it's going to look a level above, a 301 level above what JJ McCarthy has been showing so far. So to me, this is trending toward Murray. It was trending toward Murray after the last full practice we saw on Thursday, even though the narrative was not that. So I find the conversation fascinating around all this because what we see and watch does not match what people talk about.
Not always, but I think after today's practice, I don't know how it could be deniable, right? And I also think that people have really invested emotionally a lot in JJ McCarthy. I saw a lot of JJ McCarthy jerseys out here today. And at this time last year, like what a whirlwind it is to go from this is the franchise guy, this is the next great Minnesota Vikings quarterback to actually, this guy's probably going to start. And the rep count has told a story just in itself of how much more Kyler Murray has been getting with the first team. And how I always felt about this, Andrew, was that Kyler Murray would need to really struggle to lock in the offense, or JJ McCarthy would really have to be outstanding in order for it to go 50-50 into the pads and deeper into practice and into preseason and all that sort of stuff. At this moment, Kyler Murray has looked pretty comfortable with what Kevin O'Connell has thrown his way.
He has, at least with what they're doing now. Again, it's early in camp. I'm sure they're not getting into everything that they're going to get into, but the basic stuff, the play action, turnaround, hit a dig to Justin Jefferson. Of Murray's 8 completions, this is very important. 5 of them were to Justin Jefferson with the starting offense. Like that connection is the most important on this team between, I guess it's Kevin O'Connell and the quarterback, and then it's the quarterback and Justin Jefferson. And McCarthy just struggled so much to find Jefferson last year. This year, it's been very much hit or miss in the very little opportunity he has gotten with the first team offense so far. But you mentioned the reps. Total, it's 35 reps for Kyler Murray with the starters and 20 for JJ McCarthy. So again, this has not been 50-50. O'Connell didn't say it was going to be 50-50. Right. So he there was no lying here. He told us what it was going to be, and this is how it's looked. And so unless we go out there on Monday and it's suddenly JJ McCarthy getting the lion's share, I don't see this balancing out if it keeps trending the way it is. And the performances on the field so far have not dictated, at least to our eyes, that they should be changing what they're doing.
Yeah, I thought today's practice for Kyler Murray was so on point that there would be absolutely no reason to even consider changing the direction that they've been going. And then JJ McCarthy's still struggling with some of the stuff that he struggled with last year. There is a particular timing route on it's an out route, but it's like 10 yards. And Ty Felton was running it. And as Felton's coming out of his break, McCarthy lets it go late, and the cornerback is able to break on it and break it up. And you're like, well, that's kind of the anticipation. That's kind of the timing. That's kind of everything that's been talked about. And I totally agree with you that bailing on JJ McCarthy, giving up on JJ McCarthy based on the first 3 days of unpadded practice would not make a darn bit of sense. Yeah. So everyone's always going to try to take things to extremes. It's just that what we spent several months thinking about this quarterback competition and the 2 quarterbacks has really played out over the first 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Murray is so much more experienced, and not to mention that he was the number 1 overall draft pick. He's been a Pro Bowler in the NFL. He has made these throws thousands of times. Like when you think about the actual number of passes that Kyler Murray has made since the time he was in college to playing right away an entire rookie season in 2019 to, he's missed some games, but has just played as the starting quarterback over and over and over again. This is stuff that is ingrained much more than it would be for JJ McCarthy. So it's not shocking to see him jump out to the obvious lead of being the potential starting quarterback, and the fact that he's been connecting with Jefferson is just even more kind of fuel to that fire. But I guess where I wanted to ask you was, do we think that this is, I don't want to say set in stone. Nothing is. Teddy Bridgewater could walk out and just rip his knee apart one day. Sure. So you never really know, right? But Do you think that there is a chance, or what would have to happen for the direction of this to change?
Boy, yeah, it would have to be the kind of change that I think, frankly, they're hoping to see in McCarthy. Quiet feet, accuracy. Accuracy is so big in this offense. And when Kevin O'Connell says that's one of Kyler Murray's best traits, like, I think at least for me, that the bell really went off in my head of like, that means a lot when he says that. Because McCarthy's accuracy has not been his strength so far in the NFL. And there's a ton of reasons for that Kevin O'Connell, Josh McCown, they can all detail ad nauseum. But you see it today where his first incompletion or first throw with the first team offense is him kind of getting spooked, running out to his right, and then throwing this errant throw with bad footwork to the feet of Jordan Mason, who had no shot along the sideline of catching it. Like, that's the kind of hurried, bad form stuff we're used to seeing. And when the other guy's completing every throw that he's throwing with the starters, it just stands out. So what needs to change? It needs to be the fundamental stuff with McCarthy that I'm not necessarily so trained to sit there and tell you X, Y, or Z, but I can see the big picture and tell you that it's not there yet. It's still not there with him. The types of throws he's making, we're not seeing layered throws. We're not seeing throws getting dropped into buckets necessarily. We're not even seeing the pre-snap read that leads to a quick decision like I just explained with Kyler Murray when he sees the blitz and he knows where to go with it. It's those kinds of things where it just stands out to you, oh, that's quarterbacking, and when Kyler does such a simple thing like that, it shouldn't stand out to me the way that it did, but it's because we've been watching a young quarterback struggle so much, or a journeyman like Carson Wentz play last year, or Max Brosmer struggle. Like, we haven't seen this since a level of it since Sam Darnold was in the building. And no, Kyler is not Sam Darnold, but he's a guy who at least has the experience level and can play at the position at a level that we're just not seeing McCarthy do. So, no, I don't think at this point I wouldn't expect this to shift toward McCarthy. But if it does, McCarthy would need to look different than he has these first few days.
And there's just been some reps that really stand out of, yep, those are the ones that Kevin O'Connell really wants. I mean, there was a rep in the red zone where Kyler went 1 to 2 to 3 and the ball was out. And it was a perfectly thrown ball. It was like fast eyes, fast decision, right on the money. And then McCarthy kind of did something similar, and it was 1 to 2 to 3 to scramble. And it's just, not that he's never been able to make quick reads and things like that, but when you watch them back to back and you see in a red zone drill of how fast things are really operating and how quickly Kyler Murray is getting through it. And there was another one that we saw where Justin Jefferson ran a dig route, which we've probably talked about those dig routes because he just does them so often. And it was a very common KOC play. Yep. Addison is running straight down the sideline. Oh, yeah. He's taking 2 safeties with him deep, and here comes Justin Jefferson behind. And Murray, the funny thing is that our angle, we kind of can't see Kyler entirely because he's,
We're in the back of the defense, and so you're seeing all the lines in front of him.
Right, so the receivers are coming in our direction. Yeah. And so we just see the ball over the line, and it came up over the line of scrimmage. And you're looking at it like, where is that even? And then Jefferson arrives like Batman, that was an anticipation layered throw up over linebackers to Justin Jefferson that had a really nice touch on it, right in the hands, perfect accuracy. And those are the types of throws that Kevin O'Connell designed his offense for. And I don't want to go too far either way on anything after this particular practice. But I did think that if you're Kevin O'Connell standing on the sideline, you're he doesn't have a beard, but if he had a beard, he would be stroking it and saying, that's it right there. That's the type of passes that are in this offense. And when people say, oh, how is Kyler going to adjust to this offense? Is he going to be able to do it? He does have the ability as a pure thrower to be able to make these plays.
Yeah, it's just a matter of once we get into, how's it going to work, him trusting it, not running, pressure, all these things that we'll be glad to talk about if and when this decision is made. But with Murray, that throw you're talking about, I'm now remembering at the time you're thinking, is that going to Addison? Is that just a short, deep go ball to Addison? And then, Jefferson sneaks right in under it. Perfect anticipation. He made a similar throw on Thursday, the last full practice we saw before this, in which we were on the back of the offense. And we see him throw it far left toward the left sideline, deep throw, and then Jefferson just swoops right in and catches it. Another anticipatory throw that you are not seeing McCarthy make into voids of coverage. How many times have we heard O'Connell talk about the voids in coverage, accuracy?
Oh, there's vacancies as well.
Vacancies, voids, accuracy, anticipation. These are buzzwords that we have heard so much. And if you're a fan who listens to the guy a lot, you've heard it a lot and you know what's important to him. Those are the things you need to see. And you saw it out of Murray. We have yet to see that out of McCarthy. He ended it with the second team offense today with 3 straight completions, 2 of which went back-to-back to Jayshon Jones. I thought one was a nice timing route. It was a comeback route in which Jayshon is just a static target that you need to hit. That is not impressive. It was a good throw. I think on social media it got played up as like, hey, he had a nice play here. That's not new. It doesn't show you any growth. It doesn't show you what he has changed about his game. So yes, you mark it down, great throw, 3 of 3 to end the game, or end the practice, but you're not seeing those critical component concept plays that are all about the O'Connell offense, which is like the Jefferson dig, a crossing route where he can catch and run. The yak is so important to this offense. They haven't had a lot of it because of player type, because of kind of pushing the ball downfield, maybe matching with the quarterbacks, Darnold, all these things. But with Murray, I imagine it's going to be even more important to just process, get the ball out quick, and let your guys catch and run. McCarthy does not, arm his teammates to do that kind of stuff because he's not throwing in rhythm. He's not throwing often with the right speed or touch.
Yeah, and in today's practice, when you think about, not only can you not be hit, but you can't really even be hurried. So this is a clean pocket practice.
No pads.
Right. No pads. I mean, when the pads come on, this is where I'm most fascinated by how Murray adapts. And I do want to talk about that, like pads coming on and what we want to see. But when you're talking about no pads, it is a clean pocket practice unless you hang on to the ball forever and then they yell sack. But with Murray, in a clean pocket in 2024, he was graded by PFF as the 6th best quarterback in the NFL. And you can see that here he can see everything.
That's a good point.
He doesn't have to move off the platform. Bang. I mean, even when we watch him warm up, he was throwing out routes in warm-ups today, and it was just on the money, on the money, on the money, on the money. I mean, he is special with this. That's why he was once drafted number 1, and that's not really the question about him. But we saw the difference today because McCarthy has Juwan Jennings wide open in kind of a corner route and just airmails him. He throws late on a couple of plays. He had kind of a check down to Jordan Mason that he just threw into the ground. It's like, the accuracy can be improved. I totally believe it can. Can it be improved so enormously from being second to last in completion percentage over expected last year to, operating Kevin O'Connell's offense, which requires a high level of precision? It's funny because people talk about, O'Connell needs to adapt the offense to Kyler. He needs to change the offense for Kyler. I don't actually agree with that. I think that a lot of the stuff Kyler does well from the pocket works really well with KOC. I actually think if he was going to have to adjust it, it would be for JJ McCarthy, because I could see if there was a run-first team that did a lot of bootlegs, stuff like that, or teams that ran a lot of tight ends up the seam, a lot of like comeback routes. Wasn't it Philly that was running endless comeback routes? Like that would work for him because he could just put a dot on there. I think that the anticipation stuff is so vital to this because Kirk was his quarterback, Darnold was his quarterback. Those guys were super good at this. So I think that we've seen a little bit in the first couple of days of where that gets maybe exposed.
Yeah, and it's only been 3 days. I can't imagine they're putting in much of their entire playbook, running it all in front of us in these 3 days. But it does seem like it's been more of the, Frank Smith element, shotgun, a lot of play action out of the shotgun that they've been incorporating, a little more than what we're used to with Kevin O'Connell, but still plenty of under center bootlegs. They're still running that stuff. So yeah, to your point, like Murray had experience doing it with Drew Petzing in Arizona, wasn't the worst at doing it. It's just going to be, I think the point you made about how he's looking in this kind of passing academy that it has been before the pads, this is the perfect setting for Kyler Murray. You're totally right, because his issue is trusting it. His issue has been pressure. His issue has been not fleeing the pocket when his first read's not open and all of a sudden the left guard's getting pushed back. Like that's the stuff that a good quarterback to a great quarterback in this system stands in there, trusts it, takes a hit. Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins were incredible at that, just getting drilled. And obviously they did it to different levels. But those two guys, that's what made them great fits. And so the question for Kyler moving forward when the pads come on will be, can he trust his offensive line? Can the offensive line hold up in front of him? And is he going to wait long enough to make that anticipatory read that he needs to make?
I mean, that's really the thing, because when you watch him on tape, if there is pressure into his face, I mean, the height does become an issue at times. It's not just seeing, but it's also having the ball get up over people and finding lanes for him to throw to when that happens, and also deciding when to scramble and when to not. There was one play today that was kind of close of, oh, did he wait a little too long to scramble? And then he rolled out and threw a little check down. I thought, well, it's Kyler Murray, so he probably doesn't get sacked there. He probably just gets away with that. But as the pads come on, we'll be able to be a little more specific about how often it would have been a sack, because the offensive line, defensive line, they're sending blitzes. It looks like real football at that point. So that would be the one thing that if this competition is going to go from, as of right now, it isn't really. I mean, the way the reps have gone, the way the performances have gone, it just isn't. Yeah. But the way it could become one is if next week in the pads come on, it's a totally different looking Kyler. And if JJ McCarthy starts to pick it up and starts to, I think he will need to be a little more aggressive. We've seen him throw underneath a lot in these first 3 days, a little more aggressive, a little more on point, and just reacts better within the offense, because we know this from Kevin O'Connell. They script this whole thing out beforehand. They give him the plays. They know exactly what they're doing. But as camp goes on, O'Connell changes that and starts getting in their ear and saying, hey, this is the call. This is what it's going to be. And if Kyler hasn't mastered that, because a base offense he's going to be able to get from being an NFL quarterback, but all the details, the 10-word play calls, all those things, as that comes up, I still don't see much chance that this goes the JJ McCarthy direction after what we've seen so far, and after the way that O'Connell has laid it out to be clearly tilted strongly toward JJ McCarthy or toward Kyler Murray. Yeah. But that would be the only way that this thing gets interesting, is if when suddenly O'Connell clicks to the next level of, now I'm not going to tell you the play calls, you got to just know them, that maybe there's something that Kyler isn't getting.
Yeah, and I had an interesting conversation with Blake Brandel talking about his job at center and all that. And I just kind of passingly asked him about Kyler, and I wasn't expecting the answer I got. You know, typically you get, oh yeah, it's been great to get to know him, all this stuff. Like, he was effusive in saying, this guy has picked up this offense very quickly. You can tell he's a pro. I'm very excited to work with him. Like, it was very kind of a little more over the top than you would expect. And Blake's a nice guy, has nothing bad to say about anybody. So all those caveats aside, it's affirming that the team feels like Kyler Murray has stepped in and grasped a very complicated offense, at least the early installs, well. And to your point, it's going to keep getting layered. There's going to be more complicated stuff that gets added to it. The pads come on. Kevin O'Connell is in your ear. They're going to start ramping things up, and how he handles it will truly tell how this is going to go, or at least set the tone for what week one will be like. Because as we know, sometimes training camp's not the best tell for how it actually goes in week one. But the teammates feel like Kyler Murray has picked this up well and brings that kind of veteran poise and presence to this offense that is so difficult for people to pick up. Even Ryan Kelly, I caught up with him recently. He talked about how learning this offense, when I first came in, he sat down with the former O-line coach, Chris Cooper, and he said, Ryan goes, I thought I was smart. Like, I'm reading this stuff. Like, I had 3 different offenses in Indy. I had offenses at Alabama that were pro style. I come in here and it's these 10-word play calls. It's these checks and kills at the line where you need to go into a game plan, not just knowing your assignments for a given play, but then predetermining or almost anticipating what the quarterback is going to kill based on what you see. Because if you're not anticipating that, you were late on your check or adjustment based on what the quarterback's telling you. And Ryan had even more to put on his shoulders because he was preparing McCarthy. So he felt like he had to do all that as well. So it's just a lot. It's a lot for the center. It's a lot for the quarterback. And it becomes less when your center's been here for 5 years under this offense, like Blake Brandel's been, and your quarterback has seen and thrown 3,000, 5,000 passes, whatever it's, or not 5,000, but a lot of passes in his NFL career and college career, certainly, where McCarthy's thrown maybe 1,000 over his Michigan and Vikings career.
Has not yet reached 1,000 between Michigan and the NFL, which is why we talk about patience with him and why I think truly, if you view it as Kyler Murray's the starting quarterback, then what JJ McCarthy is getting is a lot of good work. I mean, that's how I have been viewing this thing, is a great opportunity for McCarthy to develop, less so as a boxing match between, Holyfield and Tyson of this competition, more as Kyler Murray's going to be the starting quarterback until we see something that tells us different, and JJ McCarthy has to develop. So what I would like to see from JJ McCarthy is some of the plays that we even talked about today, that just starts to have less of the negative plays as we go forward, more consistency, because there are plays that pop, there are throws that pop, because he's got a great arm and he's talented, but throwing accurately, Kyler Murray completes about 66% of his passes and JJ McCarthy 58%. What's that? 8 passes out of 100? I mean, when you really think about like how narrow the gaps are in this game, like can JJ McCarthy eventually close that? I don't know. I think he can, but as far as like what he's getting so far, maybe.
The 58% though is like the difficulty level with which they turned that offense into last year.
That's true. That's true.
Like it's not even compared, but sorry.
Well, here's what I'm looking at is that there are quarterbacks through recent NFL history who have struggled with accuracy very early on and have made gains in that. Right? Alex Smith, Ryan Tannehill, athletes who didn't play a lot of football in college who eventually got there. So I think this has been great for him. He's gotten some reps with the ones. If you didn't have this whole thing from last year of you left Darnold behind for this guy, you called him the franchise quarterback, whatever. If he was a second round draft pick, if we hadn't seen him last year and this was the situation, we'd be going, okay, he's coming along. We see some positive stuff and now we'll see where it goes from there. But I think that there's a couple of things that play into it, like the expectations, the emotional investment, and then these sort of mob mentality crowds that roam about the internet insulting anyone who says that JJ didn't have the best practice of all time, even if they weren't there.
Don't you love him? Don't you love JJ?
Yeah, right. I mean, it really makes no difference to me how people waste their time on the internet, but we are here to kind of tell the truth about this thing. So I think if you are JJ McCarthy, you should be viewing these first couple days as there still is a lot more work to be done. To be positive about him. This is so early in his career. We just mentioned it. He has not had 1,000 live throws in college and in the NFL. He missed his entire rookie year. Like, you're so right. Like even if the Vikings had taken a Jordan Love approach, like let's say he's still 10th overall, you don't have Aaron Rodgers, so you can't do that. But if you somehow could be like, look, we're going to sit you for 3 years, the expectations would be like, all right, this is looking okay. We're seeing at least some, where have we seen him grow? Maybe in the command of the offense. I think some teammates have talked about that as well. Him coming back with a comfort level of what he's saying, how he's saying it. You're seeing just maybe a little bit more poise in the huddle and at the line of scrimmage as well. But then when the ball snaps, that is where I'm sitting there saying my untrained eye from the back is not necessarily seeing the growth or the same throws to difficulty level or to completion percentage that Kyler's currently made through this camp. So it's so early for JJ. And he's so far behind in experience to a Sam Darnold, to a Kyler Murray, to most quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Give him time. Problem is Kevin O'Connell's in year 5 and needs a playoff. Right. He does not have time. And I guess I started wondering today, based on the reps, how deep into padded practices is this going to go? Because I had August, I think 13th was my guess of when there would be an announcement. He doesn't have to announce it the minute that Kyler starts to, right? You don't have to be like, oh, he took all the first team reps today. Everyone stop the practice. We've got a memorial football to present with Kyler Murray. Like the media from here, the national media has flown in for this announcement. Like it doesn't have to be that way as soon as, but these first couple days have told the story. I think that next week it's going to be just as extreme or maybe even more extreme based on how they've begun. So for me, I'm shifting a little bit into really a different conversation, which is not who's going to win the quarterback competition until we see different rep counts. It's more of how good can Kyler be? Because after we watched this and it looked like Sam Darnold in 2024, just no footballs hitting the ground unless they were dropped or there was a pass interference and total control of the offense. And when you hear things like that, also, we've heard this about the motivation of Kyler Murray to learn this thing. Like whatever happened in Arizona means absolutely nothing to what he's doing right now. And so if he continues to show like this, so on FanDuel, by the way, Andrew, well, the Vikings are 8.5 over under win loss, but there's also another interesting number. This right here, plus 1,800 for Justin Jefferson to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, that's a Kyler Murray prop.
That would be a Kyler Murray prop. Right, exactly. So that is the question, not whether he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of good offensive players in the NFL. The question is really 3 days into this, if Kyler Murray's the starting quarterback, what is your feeling about how good this could be ceiling-wise?
Yeah, boy. I think Kyler's got an incredible amount of talent, like at first overall talent. When they talked about Sam Darnold and they brought him in here, it was much of the same talk. It was like, this guy's physically different. Now, Sam, they're very different people, so the differences are just that. But in terms of talent, in terms of Kyler's off-schedule playmaking ability, in terms of his arm talent, the accuracy, the ability to put touch and spin and speed where he needs it on the ball, those are things that you never talked about JJ McCarthy with. There were a lot of strengths with JJ when he came out of college, but the arm talent was always talked about in terms of speed and strength. But tempoing his throws like he needs to in the NFL has not happened.
Right.
We've just not seen that. So with Kyler, how good can it be? I think Kevin O'Connell's shown it with Sam Darnold. If he can learn Kyler the way he learned Sam, and this takes time throughout a season. I don't think they're going to get to week 1 against Green Bay and boom, it's going to look lights out amazing necessarily, because I think it takes time to figure out your quarterback, go through the battles of a Sunday every, over 2 months, maybe even before you figure out what this guy's super comfortable with in your system and what he's not. But by the end of the season, if it's humming the way it should be and guys are healthy, this could be the first playoff win of the Kevin O'Connell era. I'm not going to sit there and say they're Super Bowl contenders or whatever. I need to see a lot more from Kyler before I think that, because Kyler has had a lot of struggles.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a guy but so did Sam. And I think
Sam had way more struggles, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's why you and I and many people should give the benefit of the doubt to this coaching staff, that when they have an adult running their offense, an adult quarterback running their offense, it can look a certain way. And it has. It has with Kirk. It has with Sam. And I think what we've seen early from Kyler shows that it could look that way with Kyler as well. And maybe, just maybe, they figured something out in their run game. Maybe the different schemes with Frank Smith, maybe the different approach, maybe a Damon Claiborne here and there, whatever. Maybe they have something different in the run game that could actually make it not all about the quarterback. Because I remember Sam's season in 2024, I wrote week after week about the red zone, it's all Sam. When they get inside the 20, they are trusting Sam to figure it out and saying that I thought that was not sustainable. I thought they were going to run into a defense or a playoff game, whatever. And that wasn't the reason that it all fell apart. It fell apart because of 9 sacks. It fell apart because the front in general, not just the red zone.
It kind of did, though. I mean, Detroit, if they could finish two drives in Detroit, it's a totally different game.
You're right. They got to the goal line and just threw, I think, in one section of that. Yeah.
I think so. Let's transition to this. Away from the quarterback, don't turn the show off.
Please don't run.
When pads come on. Let's do when pads come on rapid fire preview, because maybe number 2 on my list for most interesting things when the pads come on are, do we get a feeling for what this run game could actually be when the pads come on? Because when they're not on, you can't really see what's Jordan Mason doing. Is this run play successful? But when the pads come on and they're really hitting each other and going after it in the up front, and the linebackers are chasing guys down, they're putting in 100% and they're really going after it. So I remember with Delvin Cook's the best example. When he was running in 2017 camp, we were like, okay.
Yeah, it's different.
That's going to work. Yeah. Do we get a sense for that working in this camp over the next couple weeks as the pads come on?
Yeah, I thought Jordan Mason already has looked, he's slimmer. Coaches have talked about that. He just looks like he's got a little bit more burst to him.
He does,
getting through the hole and not just being this kind of lumbering player that he was coming back from San Francisco. So, yeah, I want to see that. The offensive line to me is the biggest component of this, because they were not together at all during the season last year or even during camp. Christian Darrisaw was not there. Fries had gotten cleared from his broken leg right before training camp, had gone through multiple operations in the offseason to get that thing ready, and the Vikings still gave him 5 years, $88 million. It shows the trust they have, but now he's healthy, and now he's had a full offseason. You've got your center. Ryan Kelly was in and out of training camp a year ago. Now Blake Brandell's been there. These 5 have been there consistently, and if they continue to do that throughout camp, that is how you get the run game going, in my opinion. You get the rhythm set with these 2 running backs or 3 running backs. You get the feeling of the zones that they're going to be running and where the holes are going to be. I also think this defensive front is not as vaunted as it was a year ago. I think it should tilt toward the offense looking better, and if it doesn't, it's always that push and pull of like, who's winning this? Is the defense good? Is the offense bad? Whatever. But Jonathan Grenard's gone. Jonathan Allen's gone. Javon Hargrave are gone. Like, they got some big guys they replaced him with, but I still think it's not going to look as good right away when they put the pads on. Darisaw should have the upper hand against Dallas Turner, as he's had before. All the interior guys, Fries and Jackson, should also have the upper hand against Orange and Banks. So I think in general, we should see a run game look better, and it's going to I will look at it a little sideways if it doesn't.
Yeah.
If we get out there and next week and we're 3-4 days into it and you're like, you know what, this run game has not stood out, I'm going to start wondering why that is, because this defense, the talent is not the same up front, or at least the experience certainly isn't. And that run game with the offensive line in place, the new schemes in place, should pop. So yes, I want to see how it looks. I want to see the perimeter stuff, the outside zone stuff. I want to see how Mason's slimmed down looks in that, because typically he's been that kind of downhill one-cut runner. And Aaron, we know, can find the speed on the perimeter. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how that looks, and I really want to know how much they stick with it once the regular season starts.
So I said number 2. Obviously, I'm saying aside from the quarterback situation. Do you know what number 1 is?
Dallas Turner? No.
That's a good guess. You're sniffing in the right area, but no, Caleb Banks. I mean, the very good news from Kevin O'Connell on Caleb Banks is that he's full go, and we've seen him in some of these reps, and they're going to take their time with building up his reps. And I can't tell you, well, he looked good. Like, I don't know. He's not really hitting the guy. Like, he's not really using his full get off and power and everything else, but he will be.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's number 1 to me. And I've become very intrigued with Ty Ingram Dawkins, because he's playing a lot of first team reps. I mean, really right now they play a game today. He is a 3-4 defensive end, and there's going to be rotations and mixing and matching on him as an outside linebacker. So that unit, you mentioned Orange, who hasn't gotten a lot of first team reps. We've seen Isaiah Loudermilk, who's a big giant dude they brought in from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've seen a lot of Levi Drake. Like, the defensive line, do they show us something in this next section of padded practices?
Yeah, Dallas Turner right along with that. Like, in terms of his next step for year 3, most importantly, how he defends the run. I don't think anybody questions his ability to rush the passer. But how he defends the run, because Jonathan Grenard was so underrated in terms of, and Van Ginkel, in terms of just obliterating tight ends and tackles, completely crashing and setting an edge in ways that Dallas Turner, because physically how he was as a 21-year-old coming out of college, was not the same guy. So we've seen him grow into his body at this point. I want to see how that looks. Banks already, that dude does not need to grow anymore.
Yeah, like, no, he's good. He's good.
I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of the Eagle, Jordan Davis level.
Jordan Davis,
size, like, you're just like, this is incredible. 6'5", I can't remember what the weight is.
326 or something was where it was listed. He might be a little heavier than that.
This is real analytics, but if you sort the Vikings roster just by weight, it's just their draft class. It's just Caleb Banks, Dominique Orange, Caleb Tiernan's up there as well.
Whatever listed Dominique Orange is.
Are they lying?
I don't know about that.
They're huge guys. And so the pads coming on, that's why it's all number 1 in terms of what is it actually going to look like at the NFL level. The Vikings don't have the most vaunted interior offensive line, but they're all professionals who have been at this level for, in Jackson's case, first-round pick, but the other 2 guys have been around quite a while. Those guys are going to give Banks, Orange, Redmond, like tests that we are going to at least glean a little bit of how this looks with those guys. So yeah, Banks should be disrupting things up the middle, giving Kyler a lot of headaches in terms of his interior pressure, his vision. I'm excited to see how that all looks. Yeah.
Okay, so I got an idea for one more, just when pads come on, etc. But, you're the guest of the show, so what do you got? Give me one more.
Well, I want to see how these corners look once they get into full press, once they can get the pads on and really challenge these receivers. Because Juwan Jennings is a bigger receiver. They used to have a number 14, Tim Jones, who was all he was big, and I keep calling him Tim Jones because they look the exact same. But Juwan can run routes, he can catch, he can do different things that Tim couldn't. So I want to see when they get this 3 wide set going, how are these corners looking? Because James Pierre was not out there today. Isaiah Rodgers was, even though we hadn't seen him the first couple days. Chuck Demings has gotten an incredible amount of run and has been very physical, even though the pads are not on. You talked about PI that was on Demings covering Justin Jefferson. And Demings is doing a lot of talking, a lot of celebrating. I think he's going to be fun to watch and seeing how that looks once the pads come on, because it does change things. Corners like him who pride themselves on their physicality, and frankly, Flores seems to want these guys to play that way. At least that's what it's looked like early on. I'm excited to see that. And it goes back to the secondary too. Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, how that rotation without Harrison Smith looks. How this secondary comes together without Harrison, I'm just really intrigued to see, because we've seen a lot of Ward in the slot. We've seen a lot of Metellus back deep, and that has not been historically where they want him. So how is that going to look? Like, this secondary is a lot of moving parts that I'm very curious to see what the mad scientist Brian Flores has cooked up for him.
I was not actually going to go that direction. I was going to go in the direction of the depth wide receiver group, because between Felton, Price, Dylan Bell, Dante Fleming, I feel like that's the second unit outside of the starters.
Jay Sean's got a lot.
And Jay Sean Jones. I mean, the thing with Jones is just that he's kind of under the Lucky Jackson type of umbrella of a good wide receiver in training camp, the Tristan Jackson that I'm not sure if right, if they're gonna. I used to call it Trish season, because like every summer was Trish season, because he would come out and make. He's coaching out here now, and he actually said hi to me the other day, and I was like, and I know that guy. And then oh yeah, right. I'm not used to seeing you not in a helmet.
The number one fan.
Yeah. So anyway, but so like kind of the same bucket for me. But I think the other four have potential to make the team. Felton is a really good special teamer. So is Miles Price. But I don't think we've seen a lot from them in these first couple days that have really jumped out to me in terms of like, oh, wow. So there could be an opening for somebody else to kind of crash through and make a difference once those pads come on.
Yeah, there's been a lot of outside the top three. There's been a lot of just up and downs. Like Felton, you see him today. He made a really strong grab, contested grab, kind of up, had to reach up and go get it. And you're like, man, if he could do that every time.
Right.
Because drops were his thing in college. In Maryland, that was his thing. He had that big season at the end where he was the number one target, fed a lot, but he still had a pretty high drop rate for a guy that goes in the top 3 rounds like he did. And you just see it here in camp. He has dropped passes again. I think he had another drop today, but certainly did a couple days ago. I talked to Miles Price recently, too, and he talked about learning the system as a receiver, which he just was not last year.
Right.
He won the job because he was the punt returner. They never used him on offense. He said this offseason he's been studying. They had him work in all 3 spots in OTAs, but then when they came into training camp, he said they mainly focused him on split end and flanker and slot, getting him just primarily work in those areas. And when you see it in action, again, he dropped a pass from Kyler with the 2s today. It's been a little hit or miss at times. There was one rep with Chuck Demings in the slot where Chuck just worked him. Like Price could not get off the line. So it's still with Price. You need to see a lot more from him. Same with Felton. We haven't seen a ton from Dylan Bell so far, even though
only a couple catches. Yeah.
I wasn't there in the spring, but it seemed like he was catching people off guard in the spring. Haven't seen that carry over quite yet with him. So yeah, there's a lot of like opportunity there, but we've yet to see somebody really step up and take it.
And when the pads come on, they will have a chance to do it. And of course, we'll be both out here covering it all day long.
Every day.
So Star Tribune, Access Vikings podcast as well. Glad to have you back, Mr. Krammer. I did miss you in the spring, but you were gone for very wonderful reasons. So, but we're back, and we'll be doing this, from time to time. Thank you, my friend.
Football.